welcome to episode 112 of Flix in the Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, Houdini, Alessandro Bielsi.
I'm Babu Frick.
Oh man, joining us from the car, Brian Rooney. Say hello, Brian.
Live from the New Jersey Turnpike.
Fantastic. This is a very special episode to us. This is our Rise of Skywalker episode. We're all Star Wars all the time right now. There's not going to be much room for news and nuggets because we're going to dive right in. That being said, Al and I just got back from the movie, and what you need to know before listening to this episode is Brian has not seen it, but he's a very strange human being.
A monster.
A monster of sorts. I agree.
He insisted on being a part of this.
Yeah, and he hasn't seen it. But Brian, why don't you tell the audience what you have done?
Carefully, because we need to make sure we're very careful about when we talk about spoilers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I like to search for leaks and spoilers as early as possible.
That's all you really need to say. Now the audience knows how much of a monster you are. Like, you like that? There's some sort of
There's people
nature
like
involved.
Anthony who get into a towering rage when they accidentally come across spoilers,
Yeah.
and you actively seek them out.
There was a sneak preview.
Yeah.
I watched like 30 seconds of it and I turned it off. And Al said, "Why?" And I told him that I don't want my subconscious kicking over rocks that I'm not ready for.
To which I said, "Your thoughts betray you."
Well, I mean, one thing to note. So the last leak that I read was about a week and a half ago. So I'm curious how accurate that is. That's why I wanted to be a part of this.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. But before we do that, before we get into our flick of the week, we have a special beer for this. We have two special beers. It's going to be a 2-beer episode.
Yes. First beer is a themed beer. This is Evil Genius Beer Company's Han Shot First Double IPA with Amarillo and Chinook hops. It's got 8% alcohol by volume, 30 IBUs.
Cheers.
Cheers. I guess I don't have to make the sound too.
Yeah.
Cheers. My coffee cup's up.
Yeah, don't drink and drive,
Nice.
Brian.
Yeah, right. Just for clarity, we don't condone.
Please
A
drink
drinking
and drive
coffee.
safely. I mean, drink and separately drive safely.
Nice. I like this beer. It's very tasty. This particular bottle is old though, and it's about a year old, right?
Is it?
And it's not as fresh as I would like it to be.
It's probably not as old as one or two of the ones that we've done.
That's true. There was like the one from March of 2018. But what do you think?
It's good. It's tasty. It's definitely an IPA.
Does it feel like he shot first though? Does it feel like it?
He shot me in the taste buds first. Yeah.
First, Al. Are you enraged by the changes to those scenes in the old movies?
It depends on the scene. It's kind of a scene by scene. We were talking about it a little earlier, like what they did in like the '97 and so on. Refresh, we'll call them. For some scenes, it's annoying. Actually, the latest batch of them is the ones that have annoyed me more because I hate the Darth Vader no when he picks up Emperor Palpatine.
I'm with you on that.
But what I hate even more
is the Hayden Christensen eking his way into Return of the Jedi.
that actually doesn't really bother me that much. I nothing.
Nobody else changes age when they disappear. Is my problem with it.
I nothing that.
I nothing. I don't even see that third ghost.
No, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's whatever.
Sure.
The one that I hate is how they changed the scene after Vader cuts off Luke's arm and he falls in Cloud City. He screams this cathartic no, or not no. He just has this cathartic like, yell that echoes as he's falling, and he then falls into the thing. They've trimmed the scene down, and they completely scrub his scream, and they played this over the top as he's falling. I actually loved that scene the way it was originally.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, the only ones, the ones that bother me, the one that bothers me the most is the Hayden Christensen in the end, just because everything else, like it seems like there's some sort of rules.
I don't know. They gave David Prowse hair, and he was Egghead when he died.
That's true.
So like,
that's true.
We've
I guess
always
he was
played
screwed
around
up
with
to
it.
begin with.
So
And then there's that whole thing about who was actually under the mask the majority of the time, which is It's an interesting story, and there's a
Fun
Netflix
fact.
documentary about that.
Pedro Pascal is never under the mask in The Mandalorian.
Really?
Yeah, they just have the stunt guys under there. There was one specific guy, I forget the guy's name, I was reading an article about it the other day. Yeah, Pedro Pascal is not even ever on set.
Huh.
He just records voiceover as if he was like an animated character.
I guess that makes sense. What were you going to say, Brian?
If you paid attention to the group chat, Al taught us that.
I don't remember that.
I think I sent that to you guys.
The thing is, you guys got to realize, a lot of those messages come through while I'm working. And if I see them, I'll read them quick, or they'll scroll by. And then if I were to go back at the end of the day, you're talking like a novel that I have to get through.
See, what I usually do when someone sends me a link to something is I just open a tab.
Sure.
So this way, the next time I open my browser, it'll be there. I'll be like, oh yeah, I meant to read that. And then it'll be...
But I have you here now to tell me in person. It's so much better. That being said, Han shot first. Delightful. I'm a fan.
Tasty.
I'm a bigger fan.
I don't love it, but I like it.
Yeah. I think you'd love it if it was fresh out of the keg.
Maybe.
That's when I had it the first time, and I was like,
it's tasty, but I wouldn't think it twice of this one, honestly.
Sure. But the theme is, it's not as good as our last Star Wars themed beer, which is up on that shelf.
That one was really good.
That was amazing. What was that called?
Top
right.
Where the hell is it? Oh, it's over there.
What do we got there?
It's something Millennium Falcon, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. That's right. That was delightful. That was DeClaw?
Yes.
Nice.
I'm not getting back up.
Awesome.
I'm in the chair.
You're installed?
Yes.
He's installed. All right. The Rise of Skywalker.
You want to just start with first impressions?
I want to start with first impressions.
Well,
go ahead, Brian.
But before you do that, there's gonna be a little hard for you to answer, probably.
Is it potentially spoilery? Because if so, it has to wait.
No,
okay.
no spoiler
okay.
yet.
No spoiler.
No thanks. Sorry, I almost just caught Anthony with the spit take.
More on that later.
I can't believe I got you with one via text the other day.
That was good.
Continue, Brian.
Anyway, I know as you marinate with it and probably see it again tomorrow, your thoughts going to change. Walking out of the theater, your knee-jerk reaction out of 10, what do you put it? Yeah, you got to answer. Don't give me this bullshit. You got to think about it.
It's complicated.
I know it's complicated. Oh, I know.
The thing is, I'll just kind of walk you through it as I get to my number. I obviously wanted to love this movie so much,
sure.
Before I came into it. And I've been possessed of this anxiety for the last several days in particular. And my deepest fears were not realized, but some of my concerns were.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's a lot of good to this movie as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mess. It's a little bit cheesy, but Star Wars has always been cheesy.
Sure.
Definitely very, very fan servicey, even more than 7 was.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that actually isn't a negative, actually. It's a positive, I think.
Yeah.
So overall...
Wait. Al gave you a lot of caveats. I'm going to go 8.
I'm going to say 6.5, 7.
Okay.
I like it. My biggest fears of the quote-unquote JJ's Gotta Fix 8, which obviously if you've listened to the show before, you know that me and Anthony love 8.
Yep.
A lot of that really didn't end up being true, and that's what I feared. But some of it was. Some of it clearly was meant to walk back. Some of that, we won't get into it yet.
Yeah.
But the thing that I found was more than specific plot points, though there were a couple, and some that mattered, some that didn't really. There's more of a thematic walking back of some things, which annoys me, but not enough to make me hate the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we could just wait until we talk about it more later. But I don't know. I wasn't too worried about that. I will say that the beginning of the movie is jarring. The opening crawl with the little bit of text. I don't actually know what the official title for that is. The title scroll,
I think so.
Was really jarring. It was the only one of the 9 that didn't it feels different than the other 8.
Yeah.
And I don't.
It feels
know
like
how
they
to
forgot
describe
and wrote it at the end.
Yeah, like I don't. It's well. The thing is, like the language of those things have always been consistent, no matter what.
Yeah, this one was just
this
not that.
Feels like it was written by someone else, which is weird because
I agree.
Like Lucas probably wrote 1 through 6, clearly didn't write 7 and 8 and 9, but 7 and 8 still felt like they fit the spirit of how that was conveyed to the audience.
Yeah.
This one was so different than those, which was just jarring to me, which concerned me. I don't know. Yeah, there was some things in here in the movie in general that jarred me. It took some risks that I didn't expect it to, and some I think paid off in a good way, and some paid off not so good. There were other things that were entirely too safe. There are some things that are definitely meant to be nods to the past, and I'll call it a positive way in the sense of a nostalgia fan service. And in this case, you're just not going to get around it. Mm-hmm. But there were other things that are clear rip-offs of other stuff, including self-cannibalization of the series.
Sure.
Specifically, I can say this without too much of a spoiler, when they're leaving that asteroid belt and the other ship follows them. I'm saying that as vaguely as possible so you won't know so no one will know what that...
Yeah.
That is a blatant ripoff of Empire.
Absolutely.
Which doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, in context, I think it was fine. I think it was just a stylistic choice.
That doesn't feel like a nod to me. That feels like a ripoff. You know what I mean? Like using... Like, when she's...
It felt like a nod to me because that's a thing that's reoccurring in Star Wars, I feel like. We'll get into more details about it because I don't want to... Like, again, I don't want to get into any real details.
Well, I think that was vague enough that it's not...
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I would give this... Coming out of the theater, on my Star Wars high, I'm giving it an 8. There is a room within that for further rewatches for it to go up and down, depending.
I'm going to need to rewatch it just because there's so much...
Yeah, there's a lot there.
...that's going on.
But overall, I really... there was a little bit of a rockiness to the start, specifically to what you were saying with the title scroll. That there was something in there that made me go... As soon as I read it, I was like, I'm not sure, like, how this is going to go. And it's not going to go the way I think. But it was, I really ended up enjoying it, and it felt very much to me like it reminded me a lot of Jedi, and it felt like Jedi in the entertaining factor that and Jedi growing up was my favorite. Yeah. And that's why I feel like it hits a lot of those notes in there, but like kind of like the best parts of it for me, plus some of like the best parts of the series overall, and then some of the weird stuff, some of the stuff that's like that if you're a Star Wars fan, like comics, TV shows, games, like things in there that make sense. But if you're just going to the movies, I think that some of it's going to be a little bit like, what?
You know what I will say is a credit to this. There were certain things, especially towards the end of the movie, that it's not plot or character specific, that reminded me of quotes I heard talking about The Mandalorian, where Jon Favreau said how much he wanted to lean into the weird of Star Wars. And some of that came through in this that felt like risky in the sense of this isn't something we've seen in Star Wars before that I actually kind of dug, which that's part of why it's a positive for me. I like the movie. Mm-hmm. I don't want to like profess love for it until I can
that's fair.
Get more on my feet with the whole material. And there are some things that I dislike in the, like I said, the quote-unquote reclaiming from 8. Mm-hmm. And there are some things that are completely separate from that I didn't love in just how the story arc fits together. In this movie, not across the arc of 7, 8, and 9. Mm-hmm. There were other things that I think that they really held on to from 8 that I liked that they held on to that I wouldn't have expected them to, which I view as a net positive for sure.
I agree. So you have our gut reactions, Brian. I'm an 8. Al's at a 6. You want to say?
I said like a 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
So to take this however you would want, since I haven't seen the movie. Reading everything is different from actually visually seeing it. But if everything I read is what happens, I would definitely be lower than you guys, like a 4-ish. Like, it just didn't sound good to me. Again, reading and seeing it is totally different, and hopefully a lot of the things I read are not true, which we'll find out.
Yeah,
there's a lot of visual spectacle to this movie.
There is.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, I know that. But like, if it plays out exactly what I read from a story standpoint, like I don't really like it.
There are definitely things going into like watching. As I was watching the movie, I was thinking like certain aspects of it. I was like, if I had to explain this to someone, they would not want to go see this. So I wonder how accurate the things you read were.
For good or bad, this movie has a shit ton of baggage.
Yeah.
I'll say for good and bad.
Yeah, I agree. It's
so if you're deciding to be your jumping off point as the 9th in an installment of the saga,
sure,
you're a psychopath. So
well, yeah, you're a Brian for sure.
I think that transcends Brian.
That transcends Brian. I will say,
it's like picking Endgame is the first thing. Oh, let me watch the 20th movie in this. Like, what the fuck?
I will say though, overall, I'm satisfied with at this ending for the 9-movie saga.
I would say, and reflective in my score, they could have definitely done worse, but I think they could have done better.
I don't know how much. The thing is, I can't think of something that I would have wanted more out of it. I liked where it went, and I liked how it kind of wrapped up. So we'll get more into that in the spoiler-terry. Spoiler. Am I having a stroke?
Do you smell toast?
Yes. In spoiler territory, but I think it's time though because I want to talk about this movie.
Yeah, there's only so much we can talk around.
And we're not doing news and nuggets. So from this point on, it's spoiler territory. I feel like if you watch this show, if you listen to this show.
I mean, technically we're on YouTube, but you're just looking at the visualizer.
Don't watch that. If you're listening to this show, you're probably. If you're still listening to the show, you're probably a Star Wars fan, and I imagine that you wouldn't even have started this episode unless you've seen the movie. So, that being said, spoilers from here on out. Brian, you had an interesting plan for this episode, so I kind of want you to take us away.
All right. So, I wanted to do a leak versus reality. So, everything I read versus what actually happened.
So, I guess we could probably start this off by then you picking a couple of things that you really want the answer to, and teeing them up for us, and we'll say yay or nay.
Oh, okay.
Can we play this a little bit more like a game show? You've been bamboozled.
100 people have been surveyed on the board. Number one answer.
All right. So last spoiler warning. We're going to jump into it. One thing I wasn't sure what they were going to do with the untimely passing of Carrie Fisher. I didn't know how they were going to handle her character. If they were going to let her live. Just because the actress passed away, so killing someone that passed away could be a little weird. But I read she dies in self-sacrifice to save Rey, and then I'm going to jump to something else here, so to see what this is. And Ben, not Kylo. How accurate is that?
That is.
It's mostly accurate.
Yeah. I was going to say it's spot on.
Well, the way he phrased it with Ben at the end was a little confusing.
To save Ben.
Yeah.
She literally says, I have to save Ben.
Did she say?
I think so.
She said something about Ben for sure.
I'm pretty sure. Or it's like my last whatever attempt or something like that. Or
this is my last chance to reach him is what she said.
That's what it is.
So that's what I was saying. She didn't specifically...
I think she says Ben though, because she always refers to
She does, but what I'm saying, she didn't say I have to save Ben. She said this is my last chance to reach Ben, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But yes, Brian, that's what happens. Yeah, and okay. Well, right. let's pause there.
Well, we're now. I don't know if you were reading the script itself or just someone mentioning it. In what form do you think her sacrifice takes?
It didn't have any more detail on that specific one. It was just self-sacrifice to save them.
Okay, so can I spoil something for you on how it happens?
Duh.
Okay, dude, she takes a TIE fighter and she flies it into Rey. It's freaking ridiculous. And it's the most insane scene in the movie. And that does not translate on paper.
Is Rey kind of bad at that point?
This is all a lie.
I'm literally holding my mouth and suffocating myself so that my laughter doesn't come through on the microphone there. No, that is very much not how that happened.
No, it's more of a reaching out through the Force and kind of calling his name.
She basically mirrors what Luke did in 8 to force project and talk to Ben while he's fighting Rey, and it gets him to pause, because the way that fight's going, he's winning.
Yeah.
He
is actually about to deal the killing blow.
It does seem like it's heading that way, despite the fact that he has been charged with killing her.
Mm-hmm. And
but he hadn't seemed at that point. Yeah, at that point, he didn't seem like he actually wants to. In fact, he has said to her and the audience multiple times at that point already that he is actively trying to turn her to the dark side.
Right. But yeah, so far so good. You're 1 for 1.
Okay. All right, so something else that I thought was a little surprising.
Something good.
An appearance by Han Solo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely. That is. I'm pretty sure. So far, you're reaching deep, and I think you're gonna have pretty much all things that happen. Yeah, Han Solo shows up as not a Force ghost, but
I was a little confused by the first
memory manifestation of Ben, and that one piece of it, that particular portion of the movie, I didn't fully like. I liked the idea, but making it seem like he was like fully there, like,
which I guess
was a little strange.
Considering we're post-spoiler, considering how ghosty Luke looks later, I guess that's the indication to us that he is truly a memory and not a manifestation of the living Force or whatever.
But I feel like it should have manipulated maybe some of the rest of the scenery or something in some way that we're inside of Kylo's head or Ben's
Well,
head.
I guess it's kind of hard if you're going to have them standing on a platform in the middle of the ocean with the wind to like not have his hair blow.
Yeah. Or when they cut camera back and forth between the two of them, if it's like, because that memory, you were actually talking about this earlier, his outfit it's the same as his outfit and look in episode 7. It would be interesting if when they cut back to look at him, if his backgrounds and surroundings were the rest of that platform, like standing in the dark, and when they cut over to Kylo, it wasn't. Just so that you know that it's like a...
Or they could have even just transported it back to them standing on that.
That would have been cool too, and yeah, he could have thrown.
Although that would have further fucked with my head as to whether or not it was.
Where is this
reused footage? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because that was what me and Anthony were talking about before we got started talking here. Was I wasn't 100%, since obviously all the Leia stuff, and at times it looks good, and at other times it's very obvious that they're. Like, there's times where Rey's talking to her, it's like, they're not actually having the same conversation.
There's, like, a thing that they do with engineering somebody into the scene, where when it's fully fake, there's, like, this glow around the edge of them.
Well, it's lighting stuff.
Yeah, I know, because you can't do that, I guess, like photorealistically to something. But, I don't know, it's like there's certain scenes where you can tell it was, like spliced together and pretty seamless in certain areas, and then when it's like that, and you almost see that glow. It almost looks like that the entire thing is digital. Yeah,
but the other thing is, there's times where they manage it pretty well, and there's other times where it's like, oh, they're clearly having two separate conversations.
Yeah.
But just because
it's like a pretty good spliced together like YouTube video.
Yeah,
it's like the Paul Rudd interviews Paul Rudd.
Yes, it's exactly like that actually.
Look at us.
But.
Hey.
I was what?
Look at us.
Look at us. Just at us. I was a little confused at first about the Han stuff because he is the exact same outfit. He's got the stubble and the hair.
He looked better to me though, and it didn't look like he was like it was reused footage just because it looked a lot cleaner.
I guess so. The lighting was different, so it's tough to tell. But I wondered, especially because the way it ends exactly the same way as how it ended with them in 7, where he reaches out and he touches Ben's face, and Ben then delivers back the exact same line.
Yeah.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I can or I don't know how.
Yeah.
You know, and then he looks down at the lightsaber, and I actually thought it was going to be him. If he had to stab the memory to get rid of him, I was a little confused about that.
He just goes full dark.
Also, I'm a little confused how he got his lightsaber back at all, because she had both of them when she left.
No, I think she just threw it.
Well,
down.
Brian, do you care at all about spoilers or no?
Do you think he cares?
Well, when she...
If he said yes right now, I would have been furious.
When she stabs him, she's still holding both lightsabers, and she puts one of them down to heal him, but, What? Why would you get
okay, so that's something else I read that really pisses me off, but I'll get to that later.
What?
What you just said.
Why does that piss you off?
We'll get to it later.
Okay. I mean, we can get to it now. We're kind of done with that thought.
Okay, so yeah, Rey pretty much fatally wounds him, and then because it was fucking in the Mandalorian to try to explain it, she fucking heals him with the Force.
So
that's an old Force power, man.
But this is one of those things that I was saying reaches beyond the films. Like, there's Force healing has been in Star Wars for a very long time.
That's what I was getting
and
at.
all over the place in a lot of games.
But that's also not canon anymore.
But they can reactivate any of that at any time.
Yeah.
The whole point is it's up to them to decide how and when they wish to do so. And by doing it in The Mandalorian, it was, whether or not that was the sole purpose of it, them choosing to air it 2 days or a day before was to make sure that you are aware that it is a thing again.
And also we're told that it's an old practice.
It is. It's specifically, I remember it being mentioned
like diversity.
in books and in games. Force heal has been a power that you could use to heal yourself in video games, in Star Wars video games in the past, so that's just them reactivating it to canon.
Yep.
There's actually something else. If you want to get mad about wonky, like, Force powers, there's something else that you could get. I'm not upset with it. At first I was a little like, huh.
Why don't you wait, because I'm curious if that's going to be one of his spoilers.
Okay.
That he read.
Fair enough. But, yeah, no, and the other thing is, it's actually not the first time she does it either in the movie. She does it earlier in the movie to foreshadow that it's going to be a bigger thing later on.
Yeah. Yep. All right. What's our next
spoiler?
2 for 2, right?
I guess so.
Well, 3 for 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, this one I kind of hope is true because I like this idea. That in episode 8, when Kylo says that Rey's parents are nobody, that's kind of true because she's Palpatine's granddaughter.
She is Palpatine's granddaughter.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was one that I feel like they were trying to defiantly not walk back, but did anyway.
Well, you know what they did without saying it is they did the from a certain point of view explanation.
Exactly.
Where basically Ben says to her, your parents were nobody because they chose to be nobody to protect you.
Yeah, and that was weird, but like clearly there's going to be, I feel like there's like going to be some interesting history with her father / the son of Palpatine. The Emperor. Like, I don't know, there's got to be some story there that's interesting. So she's not nobody. That's the thing. Like,
well, there's certainly no
back.
Also,
what's that, Brian?
What the hell is the timeline when this dude had kids? Because in the Phantom Menace, like, he was already old, and Rey's supposed to be young. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
it's a little.
I mean, so
weird.
she was. I mean, she's supposed to be in her like early 20s in this mid-20s in these movies. But remember, Sith have no compunction about sex and.
Yeah. See, what you have to understand, Brian, is when an old Dark Lord loves someone. And he puts his midichlorians in her.
Jedi, you know, it's frowned upon to...
Frowned upon?
Let's just say, it's frowned upon for Jedi to fuck. Sith, there's
encouraged.
There's only one rule with Sith, and it's the rule of 2. So, if your entire worldview is one of personal gain and power, and basically... It's essentially the Church of Hedonism. If you want to fuck, you're going to fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
I doubt that he had, like, a Mrs. Palpatine.
But I'm curious about that story, though. I want to know the story of, like, the partner that he could
I mean, I'm assuming he just decided, I wish to fuck, and then fucked.
I've spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have something. Something.
I have something. But, no, it's, yeah. So, but her parents, that's the thing. Her parents aren't nobody. It's kind of important. I understand in like the scheme of maybe they didn't do much.
Well, I mean, listen, if it's Palpatine's bastard child, who they know that he's hunting them, and like he was never given like the favor of like sitting at his right hand, then technically they are nobody.
They're nobody adjacent.
Nobody adjacent.
Alright, I'll let you have that.
Well, I see, the thing is, this is one of the things that I didn't like, and you knew they were going to do something of, if she was going to be related to someone, this is the least offensive of the solutions they could have chose. So I'll just say, like, I'm fine with it, even if I'd prefer they didn't do it. But if she ended up being Luke's or Leia's or Obi-Wan's daughter or granddaughter, that would have pissed me off a lot. This is the least bad of all of those options.
That's true. I was curious.
Because it makes the most sense in the sense of, like Sith can just go and fuck if they want. Like,
so I have to ask, though, because back when Force Awakens came out, this was a theory. And
yeah, I mean, people said, is she related to Obi-Wan? Is she related to Luke? Is she related to Han and Leia? Or is she related to Palpatine?
But there was a contingent of people that were adamant that she was Palpatine's granddaughter. Like, this was like a thing.
Yeah.
But it was...
Well, because it would have been weird for her to be
his
his daughter. She was too young.
In wild speculation that in the delivery of the fact that that's what she is, I was like... like, only because, like, I agree with you, it's the best option, but...
It's not a good option.
It wasn't a great option, and it was more so because I feel like it was cheapened by, like, people randomly guessing at it.
Yeah.
And then that being the choice. I feel like if it's something that you could... I feel like it should have had something...
Like if someone Game of Thrones, like, theorized it.
Yeah, like, I wish they would have reverse engineered a way that you could have gone back and figured it out. Like, to some degree. And because they've done that with a lot of... Like, they can do that. Like, they have this enough canon now that they could have done that.
And it's one of the places where the stretching at the seams of 7, 8, and 9 shows.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they had just continued on with her being nobody, I think it would have been better, and I think it would have fit better even with the through lines that continue from 7 directly to 8.
Yeah.
You can't tell this story if it's not the case. Or at least you can't tell the story in the same way. You could still have a reincarnated Palpatine who is aware of an incredibly powerful Force-sensitive being who's after her.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it doesn't have the same narrative weight, but it is still a story you can tell with minor tweak.
I also think that, I won't say it yet because I'm wondering if it's one of his spoilers, I do think that the final scene would have had a little bit more gravity if she really was nobody and her parents were nobody and she didn't remember them.
I wish it was nobody. I think that would be a lot cooler.
I do too.
But that's just
I liked that note, that signature at the end of 8 with the little kid grabbing a broom.
Yeah.
That the Force is for everyone. Not that bloodlines don't matter at all, just that that's not the only way.
Yeah, yeah. It's a missed
opportunity.
Yeah. It's a misstep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Brad. What do you got?
All right. Here's one that I think is not in the movie.
Oh.
The
God.
Hutts are in it.
The Hutts are
The
not
Hutts
in
are not in the movie. Correct.
Good. Nice. Yeah, I was hoping that wasn't the case.
There are some new amazing characters in the movie, but the Hutts were not one of them.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember now.
I was very concerned that you were like flipping through pages of something right while you're driving.
He literally has John Boyega's script in his hand right now, like the paper copy, the original copy.
I'm actually outside with the dog right now. I'm getting her to go to the bathroom.
Oh, so you got home.
Nice.
Yeah.
Force is strong with this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what else you
got? Something I hope is true.
Okay.
Finn and Poe do not die.
No, they don't.
Confirmed.
Yeah, they. Man, they're so much fun as buddies.
Actually, outside of Leia,
Some of Poe's squadron, if not all of it.
Yeah, but none of the main good guys.
Yeah. Oh my God. No.
Snap Wexley.
Well, the thing that really got they got me. They got me with Chewie, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
Big time fake out.
So they blow up something. You think he's on, and then he comes back.
Yeah.
That was a big time bait and switch.
It got me good though because there's it's one of those I'm not annoyed by it. It's the only way they could have done it without you guessing it. They did not show you any other possibility in the scene.
They showed 2 ships originally.
Did they?
I think so. But
one was leaving, wasn't it?
They only showed one at a time leaving.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it was a little crazy. So, when it happens, and the way they do it, the music, the pause, the explosion, and the scream that she gives, like, I was like, my jaw dropped, and it did not go back up for another, like, 5 minutes.
On the one hand, I was going to be willing to be like, you know what? I truly didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's not how Chewie's going out.
But yeah, on the other hand, for him to be just completely off screen. Now, I will say, they did lay the groundwork by naming his age specifically in the first scene.
Yep.
Well, the first scene with him in it when he goes, 250 years old. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's usually the type of... It's like,
definitely cheating.
That's like, you know, it's the... Oh, only 3 more days till my retirement.
Yeah, oh yeah,
about a
absolutely.
cop who dies later in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was like it's basically the same thing.
He's too old for this shit.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing. Only 3 more days till my retirement. You know?
Yeah, thank God. No, Chewie makes it, and it was a big relief when I saw him.
They do take a while to pay off.
I think I stopped breathing until they showed him again.
It takes a while for it to pay off
Yeah.
that he's alive.
Yeah, and then like her feeling it and like that was really exciting.
I actually like that too. The way that they chose to show the weight of it on her shoulders.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't know what you read, Brian, but specifically, if he had died in that time, it's Rey's fault.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, like she killed.
no,
She killed.
that I didn't know.
Yeah, she killed Chewie.
She straight up force lightning the ship that he was supposedly on and blew it to hell.
Yes, wait, I did know that.
So
I didn't put it all together.
her and Ben are playing tug of war via the Force with the ship that's got him prisoner on it, and she's getting more and more angry during the fight, despite the fact that she's basically winning 51-49, and then she blasts it with force lightning and it explodes.
I will say that was the second craziest thing in that scene, because the first was the trailer that I've seen 1,000 times. I was wondering the whole time, I was like, I wonder if she's going to slice off one of those wings. And the way they do that, I was like, oh shit, is Ben dead?
Well, see, I assumed, watching that trailer the way it happens, I assumed she was going to slice right down the middle of the cockpit. I still didn't think that's the way he was going to go out, necessarily.
But then when it rolls off and explodes in a burning ball of fire.
Well, the speed with which the cockpit then cascades across the desert and absolutely smashes against the rocks and instantly is incinerated. I was like, oh.
Brian, it's very ultimate fireball.
Nice reference. I forgot to unmute.
At first I was like, I thought I was going to get more of a reaction out of that.
Yeah.
But what else you got?
Okay. They get some kind of Sith text, so they wipe 3PO's mind so he could read it.
Okay, I heard that as text, like a phone.
Yes, that's how I was interpreting. They received a Sith text.
They did. No, that absolutely did happen, and the banter around it was really fun.
Even from the very first point where he's like, I can't tell you that. Like, you don't know where do we have to go? Oh, no, I know where you have to go. I just can't tell you.
Yeah, and like in that moment, Poe is just ready to snap and rip his head off.
I could see in his mind him yanking C-3PO's head off. And it's like, go ahead, don't tell me now.
Yeah, so that is the case.
There's a programming block in C-3PO that does not allow him to repeat and translate the Sith language.
So here's a question. Why is that there?
Well, he kind of explained it, except then he was cut off.
Oh, right.
He said there was a Republic law that banned any usage or repeating of the Sith language, so it was programming that went into all droids in the Republic. The technology was built out.
That's what I'm getting.
But
at.
I wonder if
he was commissioned like to some job at some point that he probably had to put in place.
Yeah.
Okay, that's that. I am really so Brian. This is a great piece of it. Basically, they could get the memory out, but they have to wipe him to do it. And
because they had to override the programming, and that overriding of the programming was going to wipe his whole memory.
They have to do it, and right as they're wiping him, like right before this little, the creature that steals the show. What's his name?
Babu Frick.
Babu Frick?
Yeah.
Right before Babu Frick wipes the mind of C-3PO, as the creature's about to do it, he goes, "There's actually another way," and then just boom, he just powers down. It was so good. I was just like, I want to know what that was.
I feel like if this next thing is true, this is what I don't like. I feel like that, like, it's the last one, so like you expect things not to go, great. R2 has a backup.
Yeah, but the thing is, they said earlier on, before it came into play that they were going to wipe him. Like, this wasn't just some random.
It wasn't
like MacGuffin. Mm-hmm. Like, before they do it, C-3PO, like, they ask him, they're like, 3PO, why is this a big deal? Doesn't R2 keep a backup of your memory? And he goes, yeah, but his, like, backups are notoriously unreliable.
Yeah. It would have been really funny if when he restored his memory, he was missing things that made it comical. That R2 chose to wipe.
Yeah.
That would have been, I feel like that would have been very R2.
Also, it's only a partial, well, I don't know, I guess he could have had the backups from pre, because remember, at the end of 3, Bail Organa tells him to wipe all of his memories prior to that. So technically, his memories only really exist from the start of Episode 4, or sometime in between, obviously.
Right.
But they take a while to pay it off, Brian. Like, it doesn't immediately get fixed, and they play some comedy with C-3PO basically being a brand new droid for
a brand new annoying C-3PO.
Yeah, still the exact same personality, just with none of the memories. And also, he's my oldest friend, who's known for like 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Logistically, he is, yeah.
Yeah, he goes, Babu Frick is my oldest friend. But, no, for a while they play with him not knowing anything, because, like, they're running, and Poe's like, move your ass, 3PO. He goes, I don't think that's how someone who I've just met should be talking to me, or something like that. And they do it for a while, and then R2 restores his memory, like, at the beginning of the 3rd act, basically.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the memory of everything that happened from when he last left R2, which is early in the movie.
Right before wiping his memory, that scene that we got in the trailer, it had we had kind of guessed what was happening. We knew, I think we had talked about it previously, or maybe it was me and somebody else, but we thought it was going to be some sort of, like, getting into, like, an Imperial system of some kind, and it was going to cost us 3PO to do it.
Oh.
I thought that was with you. Maybe not. But anyway, like, it was, the concept was pretty much there. It was just, it was the Sith and not the Empire or whatever.
Yeah.
But, it was still that line delivery of taking one last look at my friends was like, it was helping with making like the feeling of finality in the storyline, even though he gets it back, which is good. I'm glad he did. I'm glad he got it back. But I don't know. It was just
I'm not.
You wanted it to be done.
I feel like there wasn't enough loss in this movie.
What the hell was that?
What's that? Is that an alarm sounding on a Star Destroyer?
A door closing. Here.
That was like the most oldest, creepiest haunted mansionist creaking of a door ever.
But no, I don't know. There was enough.
I would agree with you. Well, I don't know whether or not, like, I personally had a desire for more bloodletting per se. But I will agree with you that I'm surprised more people didn't die that, like, we care about.
Yeah. Oh, I got a quick question. That's Akbar's son?
I believe so.
Junior?
Well, he's credited in IMDb as an Akbar. So.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's fine.
It was, I think, Aftab. It was like Captain Aftab Akbar or something like that. Also,
nice.
I think the voice of that was Chris Terrio, the guy who co-wrote the screenplay with JJ.
Oh, cool. Sweet. All right, Brian, what's next?
So they really flirt hard with Rey going bad. Ultimately, she remains good.
I feel like they hinted at, like, it's obviously a path that she could take. I never felt in danger that she was actually going to get there, though.
No, but they did incredibly plant the seeds of showing her giving in the middle third of the movie to her anger.
Yeah.
And she uses Force lightning.
That's true.
In her anger. You know what I mean? It's not something that, like, for instance, and this is spoilers for The Mandalorian, in Episode 7, Baby Yoda uses Force choke.
Yeah.
But I didn't view it as a malicious thing where it seems like he's too young to understand the difference between the different aspects of the Force that he has available to him.
Right.
And he's using it
for
as a protection, not in his rage, you know what I mean?
Right.
Though fear is an aspect of it as well, right? You can tap into the dark side through fear, you know. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and all that shit. Yeah. But they show her rising frustration through the end of the first act and then through the second act, and she's becoming reckless in the course of that time, and she's becoming angry and hateful in that time, and she accesses the dark side of the Force, for sure. It is credible that she could have gone, and then she is presented with a choice.
I don't know what it was, though, about the execution, that I was never in fear that she was actually going to get there. I thought that either she would come out on top or she would die in the process, because I just never believed that character would go bad.
Well, I never believed that she would go bad and stay bad.
That's fair. The scene that we had seen in the trailer with her with the double-bladed flips lightsaber thing that was kind of cool. That scene ended up being pretty cool. Definitely.
I actually wish we got a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Wish we got more. It was definitely better done in the movie. I feel like they cleaned up a little bit of it. It looked a little bit choppy.
It sounds like a scene they had just for the trailer. Like that's why it was there, to show something like that. That's what it sounds like anyway.
It ends up being somewhat important.
It's more of like a Force cave type thing.
Also, one of the coolest new things that we've seen for like the usage of a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Not specifically the fact that it was sprung open, but she then closes it like scissors around a lightsaber.
Yeah.
To pin it. I was like, oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
But there is some precedent for that. Jedi Master Pong Krell used it. Has two lightsabers actually like that.
Oh.
In the Clone Wars,
That's pretty cool.
He's a big hulking. I'm not sure I forget what his race is, but he's got 4 arms.
Okay.
And he carries 2 double-bladed lightsabers.
That's fun.
But they both, when you first see him, I was like, huh. Now he's got huge fucking hands, but I was like, that's a huge, like thick grip to his lightsaber, and you see he's got 2 of them. I was like, okay, that's cool that he's got fights with 2 lightsabers, and then he goes and like pops it open. He's got 2 double ones, and he's flipping it between his like 4 arms.
That's cool.
Holy shit! Which
awesome.
Is the type of thing you can do with an animated show.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, well, now that we're in lightsaber territory, those lightsabers were definitely lighter.
Yes,
it definitely showed.
They look a lot better.
The duels were fun to watch.
They firmly rested between prequels and original trilogy in the skill and choreography of the fighting.
Duel of the Fates will still be the wackiest, craziest, like, constant movement. Like, I love that.
My personal favorite is actually the beginning of the Anakin Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that one's just kind of like frenetic movement. Like, it's nonsense.
Well, it's the most incredible in that regard. Although the choreography of doing 3 people with 4 blades, admittedly 2 of them was joined, but still 3 people with 4 blades requires something. But just the absolute like poetry of the 2 of them fighting each other, and how it reveals actual characterization in showing you, no matter how much more talented Anakin is than Obi-Wan, that Obi-Wan is talented in his own right, especially push up against the wall. This is prior to the high ground. But furthermore, showing how closely they are linked and that each of them knows each other's every move.
Yeah.
It's telling you a big story, despite the fact that if you weren't paying close attention, you might just think, okay, this is just over-the-top spectacle action, which it is as well.
Sure.
But the double meaning in all of that, the visual storytelling there, I've always found incredible.
I just love it. It's the only one that feels a little bit like, it feels as realistic as a lightsaber fight can feel, in that there's never like one of those pause openings where like clearly the other person could have got you.
Yeah.
You know, because they're constantly moving, blocking, hitting. Like it's.
But they also have a lot of set and reset. which is similar to some of the stuff from the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely was much better than the lightsaber fighting we saw in 7 and 8, which has been one of my disappointments.
While you're on lightsabers, Rey has a yellow lightsaber at the end.
Yes, she does. And it's awesome. The lightsaber switch is awesome.
And also, she made it from the top of her staff.
Yep.
You can see that the area where the actual emitter is the same exact thing as the end of the staff that she carried.
That's cool. I feel like that was something that was kind of hinted at. That like her staff was gonna do something with a lightsaber.
I got really excited. So in that scene, she lays out Luke and Leia's lightsabers, and she on like a mat. And I thought she was actually gonna fasten them into a double bladed or
after playing
and I was
Fallen Order,
it would have been really cool. But then I was happy to see that she went the route of making her own I think.
Although I still keep wondering what happened to Luke's lightsaber. That's Anakin's lightsaber.
Didn't it break in the last one?
No. Anakin's lightsaber broke, and then she fixed it because she uses it this whole movie. Remember, that's Luke has his green bladed lightsaber.
Yeah. Oh. No, he probably threw it away or something.
I suppose that's
right. That's I would guess
probably the case. Although it's a little odd that he kept Leia's. Well, I guess the whole prophecy thing.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad they did that.
Yeah.
They showed like Leia training and stuff like that. That was cool.
I've had mixed feelings about using the faces of the younger actors in the series.
Mm-hmm. You put enough shadows over it, it looks fine.
No. I don't even mean the way it looks. I mean the choice to do it, and what that choice represents. I actually liked it for that scene.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. What's next, Bri?
All right, so I guess one of the major things, Rey takes down the Emperor, and like Luke in 8, overexerts herself, basically dies, and then Kylo Ren uses the fucking Force to heal her, but gives her like all of his life.
So that's not exactly true, because you're conflating the thing with her and Luke and missing a crucial detail in that the Emperor is able to gain his full power by draining the life force of both Ben and Rey, which has left her in an incredibly weakened state.
Right.
So defeating of the Emperor takes everything that's left that she had.
Okay, and then the last part of that was true.
So they talk about a concept in this movie.
That like you have to give some of yours to heal, like that kind of crap.
Well, there's that, but actually even more importantly, specifically, they fully finalize what the connection between Ben and Rey is. It's mentioned twice in the movie. Ben says it first, and then Palpatine recognizes it at the end. The two of them are a dyad. The two of them are inextricably linked through the Force, Rey and Ben. So that is the very specific reason why, as they've said a couple of times in 7 and 8, with the rise of Kylo Ren, Rey also has to rise. And at first it was just treated as an aspect of the Force. The balance of the Force, right? Where Snoke says in 8, with great darkness, as great darkness rises, the light rises to meet it. Mm-hmm. But without recognizing that it wasn't just the living Force that's choosing to give her this power to balance it. It's specific connection between the two of them that is making them a link.
Oh, that's funny that you see. I didn't see it that way. I thought so far up to the point of light rising to meet it. That part, I thought it was actually Snoke's folly of linking the two of them that did it.
Well, I think he may have solidified the connection.
Okay.
By doing that, by manifesting that, because you see that connection manifests itself, and that was something that I had mentioned earlier before we talked about the spoilers. If there was a thing in the Force that maybe you might want to be irritated to, the two of them are able to pass things across that connection.
You can't be irritated by that, but I'll explain in a minute.
That transcends time and space.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I be upset about that?
Because the Force is everywhere. It surrounds us. It's literally everything. Every molecule. It's everywhere. So you could theoretically move things between them.
It has to come at a cost, though. I like that in the healing process, you have to give a part of yourself. A cost has to be extracted to do that. There has to be some sort of energy cost. If there's an energy cost for you to project a projection of yourself across the galaxy, there has to be an energy cost to project physical matter. One that's much more substantial than to project an image. A non-corporeal image should not cost the same energy that it does to pass physical matter across time and space.
It's not a person or an organism, though. It was just a physical object.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, you could say it doesn't matter. It's. I don't know. It's not really.
What I'm saying is that's. It doesn't have to fit our physics model. They've already set up their own physics model to explain it. It requires a tremendous amount of energy to create a non-tangible image across the galaxy. It requires an energy cost to heal someone. Then it should also have to cost something in energy to pass physical matter across time and space in a way that doesn't fit with the general physics of the universe.
They already showed physical objects being passed through the Force in Force Awakens.
What do you mean?
The dice.
In The Force Awakens?
Yeah. Leia holds the dice.
In The Last Jedi. They're not real.
Last Jedi, sorry.
They're not real. Because she drops them, and when Ben walks into the thing,
they
disappear.
Fade, but
because they're not real.
It could be a similar principle. No, but she was holding them. It could be a similar principle.
But they're not real. It's an image. It's a projection.
But she's holding them.
She's holding the projection.
I'm not sure that
when Ben picks them up, they immaterialize.
But he picks them up though.
And
he
then
can't touch. No, hang on. He can't touch Luke. He can touch the things. He can't touch Luke.
Well, then it's an inconsistency in what they made in the movie. The point is, they don't exist.
I don't know.
They are on the island with him physically.
Yeah, and I thought maybe like the effort that it took to move them there like broke when he went away. I don't know. It didn't really bother me too much. And the time, I don't think it's the same thing. I don't think you could relate the Force projection of.
I don't see how you could do anything other than relate them.
A living being and a physical object. I think it has. I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me at all.
I'm not saying it bothers me per se because they chose to expand the definition of the Force, but that doesn't track with the other things that they're doing. Is what I'm saying. I don't have a problem.
Those other things just got established.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they end up being consistent, even from 8 to 9. When Luke, he says to Rey, if you aren't strong enough to do this, the effort would kill you. Then Luke does it, and it kills him. Mm-hmm. And then Leia does it, and it kills her. Mm-hmm. Those are all consistent between the two.
Yeah, but it's much more. It's a whole entire person and consciousness. It's not a physical object. I just feel like it's
that's not how
apples and oranges.
No, but it's just a refraction of light. They're not. There's nothing is physically changing in that case.
Then it's a different process.
Imagine how ridiculous this sounds.
I know,
out of context.
Right? That would be ridiculous.
I don't see how they can possibly be viewed as separate situations.
I think in this fake, made-up world, it can be. I also think that they clearly are stating that that's the case. I actually think that thing. I was wondering what the hell she was doing with that lightsaber. I was like, we go with that. Also, the one behind him knows he has it.
Well, the thing was, like in this case, they weren't that physically far from each other.
I thought she was gonna
I just assumed she was putting it back here, and he was gonna use the Force to pull it to him.
Yeah, same.
And then when she's just holding her hand back there, and it's like, I'm like,
yeah, yeah. Well, one thing early they set that up earlier with when he grabs the necklace from her. One thing that bothered me about that was in the second scene where they're doing that little dance. She's holding the dagger, and he's just so focused on her face that he never looks. Like, he could have known where she was for a much longer period of time until the...
Well, and that's another inconsistency in how they chose to do it, because they weren't allowed to see each other's backgrounds, right? That was true of 8 and true of 9. But he gets hints, right, because he feels the water in 8 when she's getting rained on. Something like that. She does. She's standing in the rain, and when they're done, he looks at his hand, and there's condensation all over his hand. And in this case, can't see it, whatever. Though, things that she was holding or touching, he would be able to see. But then he sees the Darth Vader helmet.
That was, I think that was a little bit more strange, because he didn't see it until it hit the ground, which it almost seemed like it passed between their proximity. I guess what I'm saying is, I would have viewed it as being consistent if she stumbled and she put her hand on it to balance herself. Because remember, it's standing waist high or whatever. Mm-hmm. If she tripped and grabbed it, then totally understand. You know what I mean? Yeah, the holding it almost seems to be a proximity thing. Same with the water, right? That could also be a proximity thing.
Well, the rain is hitting her, so the condensation.
So but her hitting, I don't know, the two of them slicing through the thing. It could be the extension of them.
Yeah.
Which also, that was one of those scenes in the trailer. I was like, what does this mean? And then when it happened, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, ultimately, I liked that whole scene.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Well, Brian, where are we at with spoilers?
The last scene, so she goes back to Tatooine and sees a Force ghost of Luke and Leia, and then says her name is Rey Skywalker. Correct. Yeah, I don't like that.
I like that.
I liked it.
She chose...
Imagine she said Rey Palpatine took out a red lightsaber and started killing people. Credits.
All of them. Slaughtered them like animals.
I mean, think about it. She doesn't think of herself as a Palpatine. She was raised by 2 Skywalkers. Raised in the Force by 2 Skywalkers.
Again, that's what I was talking about earlier, where I thought, that would have carried a lot more weight if she wasn't a Palpatine.
Yeah.
I think, if she has no background...
Well, because they said
was basically adopted.
They said the thing earlier, what's your family name? And she says, I don't have one. Yeah. She was no one and had no family name and got to choose the one that she did because they were her real parents. Right. In the sense that they were parents to her. Mm-hmm. I think it has a little bit more power.
There was a little bit of a thin thread with, Finn knows.
I don't think he did. I actually think he says that.
Because he has a secret that he never gets out? Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
I read that.
I actually think he said that to hurt Poe. The two of them are butting heads at that point.
Okay.
I don't know. He says it a couple times, though, doesn't he?
Well, that specifically,
I think he knows.
It's possible...
But I just don't understand why he would know.
The only reason it would make sense is if, he was the only person that Leia trusted the information to.
In case something happened to her?
Because Poe's
a little hot-headed and then...
Well, not only that, the specific relationship between Finn and Rey, they care about each other.
That's true. Also, Finn is clearly Force-sensitive to some degree.
Well, they certainly tipped that off at the end, yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Also, It
validates the lightsaber fight.
Yes.
Which I have been saying this whole time. So.
Well, it's funny because I remember I was more staunch about that, and you seemed less offended by it.
I wasn't. I wasn't offended. I just said that I claimed that it just means that he's in tune with the Force.
Because I was saying...
Which made more sense with the end of Last Jedi, that it's in everyone, but whatever. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's always been possible for it to be anyone. Yeah. Not all Jedi and Sith are Skywalkers or Palpatines, though in this they are. Well, from 1 through 3 at least, and everything in the expanded, even in the Clone Wars Rebels, the canon expanded universe will say, you don't have to be a Skywalker or Palpatine to have the Force. Mm.
I want to leave it with. So it seems like 2 weeks leaked were somehow all
pretty
true
accurate.
for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird
Except for the Hut thing. Maybe deleted scene, deleted Tatooine scene or something.
So, I don't know.
Could be. I don't know. Not that important.
But I want to leave you guys with a quick gaming minute before you guys dive deeper into this. Apple Arcade stuff, Ballistic Baseball. I had a review that we didn't publish yet, and it was pretty negative. They put out an update today, and what a redemption story!
Really?
It's they changed pretty much every problem I had. I'll get into that more in a written piece. Frogger that they put out sucks. Spaceland was one of the first Apple Arcade games I started. I never really, I liked it, but couldn't get into it. Finally, I'm finally deep into that. It gets really, really good, which makes for some really cool things. Like, quick example, some levels, like your characters is not permadeath, they could die, but some levels require certain characters to be alive at the end, which turns into some pretty epic sacrifices.
Nice.
Like, let me just lead this guy away and die so this one could live.
I only played a little bit of it, but that game was fun.
Yeah. At the Game Awards, they announced, revealed the new game that was out now, Ultimate Rivals. It's a hockey game.
Yeah, did you play it?
Like an arcade hockey game. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's okay.
It's got real players, not just hockey players. It's basketball players. Like, it's interesting.
Bizarre.
It's very fast, almost too fast, where I lose track of what's going on. But really good. Steven Universe, Unleash the Light. No idea what Steven Universe is, but that's a damn near perfect game if you like turn-based RPGs.
It was a TV show. I think it was a cartoon or something. Al had brought it up on the somebody's list of the top 50 TV shows of the decade or something like that.
Yeah. And my last thing I will say, Max Payne totally holds up.
Really?
Yes.
That's
absolutely holds up.
I would play that again.
You can get on your phone for $3 and use a controller or your iPad.
Oh.
Use a controller and it works amazing. That's exactly how I played it. Holds up terrific.
Interesting. Okay. Did you play all of them?
I did. I don't remember 2, and I remember 3, but I don't remember 2. 3 was basically the movie Man on Fire, but Max Payne.
Gotcha. Okay.
The movie Man on Fire, but Max Payne. That is.
Yep. That was 3.
Certainly a description.
Yep.
I've been playing this game. I don't know. I can't. I was just opened my phone to see if I could read the title of it, but it's cut off because it's too long. But it's super impossible. Basically, it's just these tracks, and you're rolling them.
Oh, yep. I've tried that.
For whatever reason, I'm weirdly hooked on it. It's entertaining.
It's a good one. But all right, guys, enjoy your deeper thoughts on the movie.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for tuning in for Spoilercast.
Have a good night.
You too. Where were we? With Brian's exit, we crack another beer.
Cheers.
Cheers. This is a New Belgium accumulation.
Yes. It's got snow on it.
There's a box there if you want the story.
Is that what you were pointing to before?
Yeah.
I was going to just read it off the bottle.
I wasn't sure if it was all there.
It's a special release from New Belgium. It looks like some sort of trailer covered in a snowdrift. It's a white IPA. Flurries of Mosaic and Amarillo hops bring soft fruit and citrus flavor, followed by a layer of bitter in our seasonally suited white IPA. Says we should drink it fresh and cold. Should pour it into a pristine glass, which we did not do.
No, it's also cold-ish.
It's cold adjacent.
Yeah.
I do it because I love you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, wait.
We're going to actually cheers this one because, dude, we just saw the finale of the Skywalker saga.
That's interesting. White IPAs have always found to be a bit of a conundrum to me.
I'm a fan of this one. I will say fresh glass would have been the way to go.
Yes.
There's definitely something going on in here because I've had 2 of these already.
I feel the conflict within it.
Yeah, the dark and the light rise to meet it. But no, it's tasty. It's got the flavors that I like. It's got the look that I like in my beer. It's definitely.
I mean, it's hazy as fuck.
Yeah, hazy AF. It's definitely affected by the beer that was previously in the glass, though.
No, but that actually would be something that would go on with a white IPA like that.
No, there's something else though, because like I said, I had these before. But also I also drank them out of the bottle. I know that makes a difference sometimes. But that's a good one. It's a good it's a good second beer for our show.
Careful there, don't knock that down.
Yeah, don't knock down this shoddy table that I have, which
is a speaker on top of another speaker.
It's 2 amps. Absolutely. It's perfect though. The microphone is at the exact right height.
Yeah, and distance.
Yeah.
I'm sitting twice as far away, and we sound like we're the same.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh man, that little creature made me so happy.
He was a funny little guy.
He said things. Sometimes he spoke English,
and sometimes he very much did not.
And it was just when he shows up, or she. I don't know the gender of the creature.
I assumed it was supposed to be a guy, but it was definitely voiced by a girl.
Okay, so when she shows up in the ship, when her head pops up, I was like, yes! She joined the fight!
Wish we got a little bit more Zori Bliss, but it's just because I'm a Kerry Russell fan.
Yeah, I can see that. When the fleet shows up, the Resistance fleet, that was pretty cool. I thought it was going to be a little bit more impactful than it was. I thought we were going to get some faces or something.
We got a couple. We got Zori and Babu. We got Wedge, who really confused you.
Yeah, you know what it was? The actor looked like Anthony Daniels.
Well, I guess
that's why I was like, first of all, I thought that would have been really cool to give his face into the movie.
Yeah.
But because he kind of looks exactly like that right now.
It was nice that they gave Anthony Daniels a lot to do in this one.
Yeah.
He didn't have much to do in 7 and 8.
I was trying to think of him in 8. He gets excited when R2 comes back online, and in 7 he shows up with a red arm for a scene, right? Is he really in it much after that?
He shows up with a red arm, and then back at the base on what the hell is that place called? Dakar? It's Dakar. He has a couple of lines with BB-8 saying how the map is incomplete and saying how R2 has been asleep. But his excitement at R2 coming back online is actually the very last part of 8. Because then R2 jumps on the Millennium Falcon with... and then in 8, he has...
Very last part of 7.
Yeah. At 8, he has some scenes at the end when they're on... and then he's part of the mutiny. He's an inadvertent part of the mutiny because he tries to leave. He says, "This is not proper protocol." And then the door starts getting cut, and he goes, "This is also not proper protocol." And then he has the whole thing,
funny.
Crystal Caves at the end. So yeah, he got a little bit more to do in 8, but still not much.
Yeah, but he was definitely in it. He was in it enough in this movie.
It was a good send-off for him.
Yeah, I agree. Oh man, it's just I had a lot of fun. I was super entertained. I really thought Maz was gonna make out with Chewie at the end there.
Yeah, I like that she gave him a medal finally.
That was pretty great.
Yeah,
there were a couple things that they did there. Oh, let's talk about some of those keep things alive from 8 or kind of dismiss them. So I liked the idea of when the character was I don't know what the character's name was, but he was like, let's pull we gotta pull a Hondo move. I thought that was actually kind of cool to nod to her shooting the ship through all of the fleet. Holdo, sorry, shooting through all of the fleet, and he's like, that was a 1 in a million thing. I was like, all right, that's fair. It's not, but that's fair.
It's a weirdly heavy-handed. Okay, guys, we heard you complain about it. Shut up.
Mm-hmm. Though at the end of the day, when it happens in 8, it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Why haven't we tried that? But I do think they could probably get around logistics of you have to be a certain distance and do it.
Yeah,
and it would make sense because they were doing a lot of those jumps. The hyperspace skipping, that was a great scene.
It reminded me of actually there was a handful of things in this that reminded me of the Guardians movies, but it reminds me of when they're doing it in Guardians 2. Yeah.
You jump through all the gates and their eyes are about to explode.
Yeah.
No, that was fun.
Although it's like, I don't know why it should have been necessary, because they shouldn't have been able to track with just TIE fighters.
What do you mean?
They were doing it so that they wouldn't be tracked through hyperspace.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have been able to be tracked by TIE fighters.
I think we're just supposed to accept that they've, like, in the amount of like, they had this tech that was able to do what it did. They probably have advanced it since then to do some sort of...
I suppose so. It's just, that's the type of thing that you need an absurd amount of power for, that needs to be, like, have its own dedicated processes. Because the whole point of them having to hack it and shut it off from the main bridge in 8 was because you couldn't just switch off a switch somewhere. You had to disable the whole process at its core. And that it's something that only basically a capital ship could handle. I like that. And also, it fits in with the mythology of TIE fighters, because TIE fighters aren't supposed to be able to jump to hyperspace.
Yeah.
At all. Let alone track someone through hyperspace. That's been a consistency throughout all the movies in the past. It was an important distinction that they didn't give engines that powerful to it, and so it forced TIE fighters, they couldn't desert because they couldn't just jump off on their own. They had to go back to the Star Destroyer in order to make the jump.
Yeah. Well, this is I imagine we've gone far beyond what TIE fighters have been, but
suppose that's possible.
There's no explanation, but I'm not offended.
No, not offended. It's just a little one of those. It just kind of like rankled me a little bit.
It made for some really cool scenes, though.
It did. The skipping thing was interesting.
Also, the ship's on fire. The whole ship's on fire back there. You dropped the tree on my droid? Poe was very funny in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's been very funny this entire...
Yeah, but they gave him more opportunity to flex his...
Who talks first? You talk? I talk? Who talk?
Well, as good as that, the opening scene in 8 is... It gets me every time. Is Hux there? You know, pasty fella.
Let's talk about Hux. When he kills the 3 stormtroopers that are about to kill our lovely band of rebels, Poe, Finn, Chewie.
Yes.
Did BB-8 with him?
No.
He's at the ship.
Yes.
When the stormtroopers are about to execute them, and then Hux kills the 3 of the stormtroopers, and like he's letting them go. I'm like, huh? Like, this is weird chain of events. I was like, that's very out of character. And then when it was basically like there was no noble intention there. It was just like it was more of like a whiny, like, I want control of the order.
Well, I never expected it to be noble.
Yeah.
I assumed it was going to be his own version of a life raft or playing both sides. I'm not at all surprised to find that it was literally just a middle finger to Kylo Ren.
Oh yeah.
But to see him so boldly say, I don't care if you win, I just want him to lose, is pretty funny.
Also, Finn, shoot me in the arm, and Finn blasting his leg was really... Finn's so sassy. I love it.
Yeah, well, he's gotten increasingly sassy over the course of the series, which I guess is the transformation from Stormtrooper to real human being. Right?
Yeah.
I was also surprised with just how quickly Allegiant General Pride decided...
Done.
Nope.
Yeah. I see what's happened here. Bang!
I mean, it makes you wonder what costs, like, must he have extracted from himself to have, did he have to lose an arm? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what would have then put him, to the rest, like, maybe it wasn't him, you know what I mean?
Right. I think it's just that he probably, like, suspected him because he constantly was giving him side-eye.
It's funny because when they introduce it early on, you have to expect it's probably Hux because he's just in that position. And he seems to have turned from being, a rabid cur who's a true believer to, a beaten dog now. But when they first introduced that, little, like, cast of characters of all the generals sitting around together, I was basically 50-50 split between what is it Hux or is it Pride? Because it could have been just as easily either one of them.
Yeah. I will say that I didn't actually... in hindsight, like, I should have seen it coming, but I didn't, because I just assumed they were doing, like, a character introduction of some kind, and that it was going to be somebody that we know that's, like, I don't know, in a Stormtrooper outfit, or, like, somehow has access. I didn't think that there was actually somebody in the room.
When they first set it up, they mentioned the spy a couple of times. We hadn't seen Rose at that point. I had wondered if she'd gone undercover.
Oh, interesting.
And then we see her on
that could have been cool.
Planet eventually, and before we find out who they are. So obviously we know it's not the case.
When they're in that I guess, I don't know, briefing room, like whatever it is, I like how I feel like when they were doing that scene, they were like thinking about like, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do this? Like he's gonna get pissed at him, he chokes him. You know, a throwback to the original movie. He's gonna choke him. And then
what does that look like in 2019?
And then you're like, no, not big enough. Let's choke him and throw him into the ceiling. And then somebody else was like, yeah, but make it effortless. And I was like, we got it.
That's what I'm saying. Look, the sensibilities of that scene from 77, but with the technological things we can do in 2019, what does that look like? It's, I'm going to toss him like a rag doll.
Yeah.
With the Force. And also, grabbing a guy and throwing him into the ceiling has been a big mood for Star Wars for the last few years. Mm-hmm. See Vader at the end of Rogue One. See Jar Paul in Jedi Fallen Order. Just effortlessly tossing dudes into the ceiling.
What I like about it most, I think, is that it tracks with some of the first time that we see Kylo in Force Awakens, and he's like able to do this pretty intense stop a blaster bolt in midair and keep it there while continuing to go about his business, and then it lets it go through like that. I think that was kind of cool, like to revisit that to some degree. That was fun. Whose ship is this? That was also funny. It's like, oh no, guys, get out of there!
Wait,
when I can't think of the guy's name that ends up like basically leading the fleet that on the for the Emperor. What's his name?
Oh, Legion General Pride.
Yeah, when Pride goes and when Kylo's down on the planet and he goes into the hangar and he sees the ship and he's like, whose ship is this?
Yeah.
that was kind of funny.
Well, see, the funny thing is at that point, that's still before we find out who the spy is. And it actually was, I think, something in the column of I wondered if that was the case, if he was going to find some way to smuggle something off with them or something like that, you know what I mean? Or engineer their escape for them, you know what I mean?
No. I kind of wish that, maybe it does, I feel like when they say numbers or things like that, they mean something in some context. They're just like a nod to something, I feel like.
Sometimes, yeah.
Do you know if Chewie's cell meant anything? I don't remember the number.
I don't know if it means anything because I don't remember.
Yeah,
Actually, did they even say the number?
They did.
I don't remember.
They did. I think it was like 3 digits. But I don't know. I thought maybe they would have like used the same cell number from like New Hope or something like that. But they didn't, and that's why I was curious if maybe it was something, because in New Hope it was like 1138 was like THX thing. Well,
it's
not
1313, right?
No, 1138.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Cell block 1138. That's where they're taking Chewie. But anyway, that scene when the Falcon turns on the engines and blows all the stormtroopers back. How good was that? Like, there were some really fun visual things that they did in this movie.
Oh, the one thing that's like unquestionably true is, much in the same way, I felt this way to a certain extent in both 7 and 8, but especially 7. Cinematography in this movie is really great, and I'm assuming it's the same person because there was a lot of the same visual sensibilities. Mm-hmm. And there were some similarities in 8 too, and I think 8 looks great too, just in a different way. Mm-hmm. Like, I think some of the visuals on Crate are incredible.
Yeah.
And obviously, the standout scene, and it's an audiovisual treat, is the scene with Holdo's last stand. I remember when we were in the theater for that, my jaw dropped.
Yeah. So the immediate cut of sound.
Yeah.
And then the black and white. Oh god, that was so cool.
But yeah, no, the chase through the ice was incredible. The moving through the nebula, even the way they shot that first scene with Ren fighting those people on that planet.
He killed all the Ninja Turtles in that scene.
He did
remind me of
the Ninja Turtles. The scenes on Exegol were incredible.
I just love... they do this thing where they create these structures and these scenarios that, like, it's supposed to be like a creepy, like, place that we just don't fully understand, and I don't know how they get to, like, how they make that mental leap to designing something that fits that, right? Like this gigantic block that floats slightly above the ground, and then this elevator shaft that goes down and like flanking the elevator shaft.
It's a Sith temple. It was some of the similar visuals to stuff in Malachor. And
but even that though, like it's just coming up with that is so interesting to me. Like I don't know, like if I was to like design something in my head, I don't think I would ever make it to that.
Yeah.
Like to be like this, like it has such gravity to it. Also, what was the thing above the ground? What was that structure?
I think it's just part of the superstructure of the Sith temple.
Okay, that was interesting. There's a scene when Rey is down in that temple, and like there's a lot of lightning cracking underground, which is unsettling. And and then there's like a very narrow passageway, and I was like, "Is this a Jedi Fallen Order not? Are they loading the rest of the movie?"
I was thinking about that a couple times too. I was like, "This kind of reminds me of some of the like moving around and stuff, like sneaking through things and stuff like that."
There's a lot. I feel like I can't place my finger on them right now, but in the moment, there were things that I was like, "Wow!" Like Jedi Fallen Order like nails certain pieces of theme that like. Not just Star Wars, like specifically that are here present in this movie. And I was wondering if they had maybe had access to storyboards or something to get some of that feel of like what they were going to do with the dark side, like just to kind of to make that game as like feel as cohesive as it does.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, obviously they had to be given some access. They had to be given approval by the Lucasfilm Story Group. Mm-hmm. So it's obviously a collaborative process between the game studio and, Lucasfilm itself. I don't know. I got some of the similar vibes too. I think maybe it's just because I've been in that game so deeply lately.
And it's just that the game really nailed it.
Star Wars. And it's something that you and I have marveled at since early on in our experience playing that game is it looks and feels right.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That what I was alluding to earlier in our discussion about things that it did feel like were kind of a big jump that I liked, and they didn't really have much impact in the sense of the narrative or the characters per se, but just it wasn't something I could have envisioned seeing in some of the previous installments, specifically on Exegol when they're getting ready.
Are you choosing to do an O or an L? How are you doing this?
It is an L.
You looked at that? Okay.
EXOGOL.
We had that conversation before the show. How do you say this word?
Yeah, EXOGOL.
G. I was hearing a C in there the whole time.
Oh, I mean, it's G. That's a little hard. Can sound like a C, whatever.
Carafe, giraffe.
No. This is a soft some of that whole sequence where they're setting up the ritual where there's chanting and then we see thousands and thousands of hoods. We had no idea.
Yeah, what was that about?
We had no idea. We knew there was obviously a pretty dedicated cult that revived Palpatine. Mm-hmm. But I assumed that meant there was going to be like 10 creepy dudes or something like that. Not thousands of them.
Yeah, like a stadium full.
In an arena. And at first, I actually thought, was this supposed to be kind of a more ethereal situation where it seems like there's people there, but it's actually, as he said, that he houses 1,000 generations of Sith. I wondered if it was kind of they're not really there, but meant to be a trick of the mind of the manifestation of all of these previous generation of Sith. Or as the sequences continue to unfold, it seems more like they are really there.
Especially with there were certain scenes of them kind of getting blown away.
Well, that is by the time it's done when she destroys it all, you're seeing rocks land among the bodies.
Yeah. And
it's fucking shit up. So they are there.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
But a lot of those visuals with, like you said, the underground lightning and this Sith temple around them, all of that sort of stuff that didn't look like anything I've seen in Star Wars before. And that's meant to be a compliment. I thought that there was some really cool shit going on with that whole situation. The idea of this ritual getting into, not just the mysticism of the Force, but the practices of that aspect of the Force, which we don't know a lot of, right? Mm-hmm. It goes into something you and I talked about through Fallen Order about there's a whole other aspect of the Force that's magic, essentially.
Right.
Star Wars that's not recognized as light or dark per se. The green side of the Force. Asshole. To see some of these other things, we saw a little bit of the Church of the Force, right, in Rogue One, and it's been mentioned in some other pieces here and there about people who recognize and revere the Force, even if they're not Force sensitive themselves, or people who are Force sensitive but aren't Force users per se. But those are tied to the Jedi, not the Sith. Mm-hmm. But to see the kind of the mirror image of that was really cool, I thought.
Yeah, it was. I just like that they're able to do something like that, and it's it doesn't. It fits, like, right. It doesn't. It's new, but it fits. It doesn't make you take a mental leap to get to where they got. Like, it works in the context. There's something you haven't seen. Like, to come up with new things like that within this context and for it to land, I feel like is impressive. And
I'm still a little confused about how one houses 1,000 Sith, and then like ensures that they will transfer it to the person killing them. Like,
yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Engineering a scenario in which, you know, if you told me that someone wanted it, that they could steal it, sure. But that it's like, no, I just want to get rid of you.
Yeah.
I don't want... This isn't a transaction. I'm killing you.
Right.
Yeah.
I
really, you don't have to pay me back with anything else. I choose to reject your Sith.
Yeah. So one of the things I was trying to...
The Sith are an STD.
Oh, God. You contract the Sith.
I contracted a wicked case of the Sith.
It sounds like an STD.
Right?
God. One of the things that I was trying to figure out here, they gave us an answer. From what I gathered, and it's not... I don't think it's too much of a leap. They gave us an answer to who Snoke was, because he had a whole bunch of Snokes in a tube. I assume so. He just created Snoke to be like this embodiment.
It seems like it, and you know what? You could fall on the case of that being an underdeveloped storyline. I actually kind of like that being a show don't tell like sort of situation, and
I like the mystique around it. They just
I'll confess. It's something that one of the big points of difference that I've had with my brother on 8 was he's like, we don't know who Snoke is, we don't know where he came from, blah, blah, blah. Like I want to know. I just don't think it mattered that much. And a lot of people got hung up on it. Like, no, we need to know. And it's like, I guess that's the biggest issue I've had with people who've been angry about 7 and 8. When did Star Wars become accounting? You know what I mean? Uh-huh. And I'm guilty of it at times. To a certain extent, that was true even of our conversation slightly earlier about being able to snatch things through the Force or whatever. And the only reason it irritated me is because it seems like they've pretty clearly delineated a framework for it. Even if they don't give you all the specifics, even if you can't do the math yourself, you can see the framework of how that works.
This is a rich... This is like a gigantic universe with a rich history, and we're showing you a story. No, we're not telling you that story. That's not what this is about. This person exists, and that's it. Yeah. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't that big of a deal.
Well, and I think sometimes...
And if you hate that, then you also hate Empire and Jedi.
Well,
because
that's the thing, is I think sometimes we forget where we came from as Star Wars fans.
The Emperor just shows up.
The Emperor just shows up. Boba Fett was just a dude in armor. Mm-hmm. Like, people love Boba Fett. It's one of the abiding mysteries of this world. And I mean literally real world, not just Star Wars.
Yeah.
Based on precisely what?
He looks cool.
And so, like, when you lose that, you lose the magic of Star Wars fandom, right? When you can't uncouple the desire to know more and the desire to enjoy what you have, right? That those two things can and should, for the most part, be mutually exclusive. And there's going to be things, and there are things that become plot holes, and there's things that you can find a way to explain around That'll work better for some people, that won't work for others, and that's all fine, and that all exists within the realm of discussion. But I always wanted to know more about Snoke, but I also recognized pretty early on after he died that it doesn't matter.
In the context of what we're watching or dealing with,
it really doesn't matter. And that's one of the things that they change in 9 by immediately and at the beginning giving you Palpatine. Palpatine exists. Again. That is a failing of this storyline because Kylo Ren made for a more compelling villain. As much fun as I have with Palpatine, as much fun as I have with Ian McDiarmid's take on Palpatine, in the end I was excited to go towards what does 9 look like with Kylo Ren as the main villain. And he's then immediately relegated back to being a supporting character.
Yeah, there is also something to say about that of Kylo Ren is like this. He's on the level. It's more of like a toe-to-toe fight. It would be by the end between him and Rey if that were the case. And then also like I always kind of liked this idea of like going back and thinking about it like Luke going after Vader and the Emperor. If it was Rey going after Kylo Ren, it's like the dog chasing the car thing. Like if you kill him, that's not great, right? Like, that's not really what we're going for. So what are you going to do when you get there? I kind of liked that dynamic, and like you're not really getting that with this.
And it requires strong writing, right? It requires someone with a greater imagination than you or I has, to be able to say, okay, so what does the dog do when they catch the car?
Yes,
and that's hard. But you know what? Fucking making these movies is hard.
Yeah,
you have to be able to do it to give us a satisfactory story. And the thing is, I actually think there exists a scenario where you can make this work and still include Palpatine. And actually, the model works something similar as kind of a co-opting of the storyline you see in Fallen Order with the Wanderer. If he invited an unrecognizable Palpatine as an advisor, who then tries to supplant him and regain his throne, that could be really compelling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where Kylo Ren is the main bad guy, not realizing Palpatine is pulling the puppet strings. That he's not told in the beginning of the movie, I've been pulling your strings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where at the end, it's revealed to him that with his focus on Rey and the whispers in his ear by Palpatine, that he doesn't realize that his kingdom and castle have been stolen out from underneath him, and that he was sold a bill of goods to begin with, and then him and Rey align to... I would find that to be a more compelling story.
I'm going to be honest with you. One of the I'm not mad that it didn't go here, but one of the things I liked the way it played out. But one of the things that I thought was actually happening was I thought that Kylo has already proven that he can be tricky, right? Like he tricked Snoke and he killed Snoke. I thought that he was going to uncover the plan and he was going to kill the Emperor and become... I actually thought he wasn't going to be good until this whole thing went down. Like, I just feel like I thought he was going to somehow, like... I thought he was going to be angry and take over to some degree.
Well, I think they painted themselves into a bit of a corner because I think you could have done something like that, forcing... You push Leia's sacrifice till later in the movie.
Yeah.
But then... It's a zero-sum game. To do that, you have to undermine Poe's development, which they actually carried through really admirably from 8. And a lot of people had problems with both the big picture characterization of Poe and the specific narrative choices it took to get there. I didn't have a problem with really any of it.
Me neither.
I actually liked most of it, or at least understood it all.
My only problem around Poe is people withholding information from him. Like... The guy can do things. Just tell him what's up. He's fine.
Well, in the case of Finn, that makes much more sense to me, whereas I still hold that all of the people complaining about Holdo not giving his plan, I reject that narrative. I reject it.
Reject what?
People complaining about Holdo not telling him her plan.
I reject it only... I'm sorry, I don't reject it. I agree that... I think that she should have been a little bit more open with him only because he's been capable and he's known to do crazy things, like almost like choose to bring him into the fold to not fuck up this whole thing, because he can be a tremendous ally if he's in the loop.
But she doesn't know that because they don't have a prior relationship.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I guess I would have thought that Leia would have actually like conveyed that to her to some degree, because clearly they have a rapport.
I suppose so, but furthermore, as she says right off the bat, Leia's last act was to demote you, rightfully so, and like you took it on the chin because you knew it was the right move to demote you because you done fucked up, kid.
Yeah.
So now go sit down and do what you're told. And also, by the way, crisis situation here, maybe don't undermine me. You know, the way that the chain of command works.
I think, I don't know, there's something to be said, though, for like, they're not a real military.
But they act like one.
They... kind of?
I mean, listen, they have the ranks, and I admit they don't promote in the way a normal military does. Like, Finn became a battlefield general in the same way that Han and Lando did. I never understood it then, and I still don't understand it now. So, you know, although I did like General. I did think that was a little funny.
I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you too. I need you. Great scene.
I need you to help me command. Okay, first of all, thank you, by
the way. Their relationship is so. Those actors, I feel like they have a really good chemistry.
Did you see any of those? Did you see that video that he put out the other day?
Who?
John Boyega?
No.
I meant to send it to you and Brian. Maybe I didn't send it to you.
Maybe you did.
I may have. I don't remember. It was John Boyega. He was like narrating it in old like English style because obviously he's like British, like he's got the accent right, but he's like very prim and proper in his like English, and he's like took out his like feather quill, and he's writing a letter.
Dear Poe.
No, not Dear Poe. Dear I can't even think of his name right now. And I love him, the actor.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac. Yeah, Dear Oscar. You know,
dearest Oscar.
Yes, and he's inviting him to the premiere with him.
That's so good. I love Oscar Isaac.
He goes, I've sent you many texts and I've heard no response. This is the only way that I can communicate with you, you know?
Oh my god, that's so funny. The whole ship, everything's on fire back there. That really got me. I can't wait to see this movie.
I know, small note, and we're kind of starting to now jump around a bit.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm a huge fan of the yellow lightsaber.
Oh, yeah.
Wish we would have gotten some actual screen time with it. I love that they finally did it in a movie, not just in a show. They did it in a movie, because they've even been pretty tight with letting other people have other color lightsabers in the shows and games. Well, the games have been pretty free with it, but I love blue and green lightsabers. It's great. It's got a little variety in there. And part of it is, I think, a recognition of the idea of, despite the fact that they kind of fell back on... Well, you know what? And that's not even really undoing anything with 8, because by the end, Luke backed off the Jedi need to die thing. I think, you know, it was really about driving home the message of, stop getting caught up in the rules, go do good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, go be a Jedi. Stop worrying about, you know, well, I have to do this, and go do good things, guys.
You really pulled on heartstring there. There's did you watch Boy Meets World?
Not really.
So there's I think it's towards the end, Feeney, their teacher, then principal, then a college professor. He's always with them.
Wasn't that Bob Golick?
He said, what?
Weird, no, because 0% chance you would have known that. I think the guy who played him was a professional football player.
Really?
Maybe, unless it was a different teacher, or I'm thinking of a different show, but one of those 90s shows.
Yeah,
I think that might have been him.
That's really
What's
funny.
his name?
Well, in the show, it's George Feeney.
I'm just gonna look up.
Yeah. So there's a scene where so he's a teacher. He's kind of proper. He's always teaching them lessons, school lessons, life lessons. He's a great character in the show. But in one very moving scene, he goes, he's like telling them something, and he's like they were like moving on to like the next stage of their life. I think it might have been the finale. I could be wrong, but he says, "Do good," and Topanga goes, "Don't you mean do well?" And he's like, "No, And I always love that.
I was wrong. That wasn't him. I don't remember. He's in one of those. It was either Boy Meets World or it was Saved by the Bell. He was a teacher or a principal in one of those two shows.
It could have been Boy Meets World. There was another principal, another teacher in there that was like that was more fit. That could have been. I don't know. We'll have to get to the bottom of that because I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah.
Because I watched both of those shows, so I probably know who you're talking about.
Okay.
But yellow lightsaber, very cool. Here's the thing. I actually had asked you yesterday, I think. Does this feel final to you? Like, as far as the story goes? Going into this, to me it did. It felt
you
like...
You never actually responded to me once I gave you my answer.
Cause I kind of wanted to talk about it on here. So, like, when I was a kid and we were watching 4, 5, and 6 over and over and over again, like, when you get the idea, when you learn that it's 4 and not the first one, you know what I mean? Like, when you understand that there's, like, it's like the middle of the story, it was always like, yeah, someday they'll make those movies, and then they did. They made 1, 2, and 3. And then I was always aware of, like, the Thrawn trilogy, and I was like, oh, like, there is a cohesive 7, 8, and 9 story in here. I just assumed that in someday, doesn't have to be tomorrow, it could be way down the line, there's going to be 7, 8, and 9, like, they're going to do it. And eventually we got The Force Awakens, and now, granted, it didn't follow the storyline. We got it. Like, and to me, it was, as far back as I can remember, and I know that it wasn't always the case, but, like, the furthest back I could think, I know there's a 9-part story here. And it very much going into this felt like, oh, like, this is the cap on this thing that we've been experiencing since we were kids, which is awesome. Like, it's really fun. When it ended, I was like, oh, they'll keep going. Like, at some point, not tomorrow, maybe another 6, maybe 10, however many years, they're gonna add on to the story, I think, in some capacity, because they're gonna continue to go on with they're going to continue to go on with the Star Wars universe, and I thought they were going to tell other stories and do things in the past, because there's so much back there that they can do interesting stories with. I just didn't think that they were going to...
Fine, but can we all agree that after the Obi-Wan and Cassian Andor shows, can we stop doing Rise of the Empire stuff?
Yeah.
Like, how many stories can we tell in that 20 years?
That's true.
When there's, like, so many thousands of years before and after that we could be, like, tackling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, like... Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I remember the first time playing through Knights of the Old Republic and being like, this is insane. like, let's go back there. That sounds fun. I don't know. I agree with you. But anyway, what I was saying...
Like, hey, like, we have The Mandalorian that's 5 years after Return. There's still 25 more years. And also, you know what? You could do a movie or a show that's happening at the exact same time as The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
On the other fucking side of the galaxy. And it doesn't matter that they're happening at the same time.
Right.
It could be happening at the same time. It could be happening 50 years earlier. It could be happening 50 years later. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, because it doesn't even have to tie into this per se. If you see a Jedi, if you see a Force user, and you see a Rhodian, and you see a fucking droid, like, it's Star Wars. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Tell a good story. We don't know anyone in The Mandalorian, but we know a Mandalorian, and we know an ex-Stormtrooper and an ex-Rebellion,
and we know a Greek guy with ears.
and we know a guy who looks like Yoda, and it's like, there's an Ugnaught. Like, okay, it's Star Wars. We all love it.
It's that weird cat thing.
There's a couple of Twi'leks, too. Like, if you tell a good story...
They were creepy.
Yeah, well, those specific ones were creepy, yes. If you tell a good story, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. Expand. But, like,
do something new. Because I still felt like 9 was too safe in some ways.
I agree that it was safe, and that I thought it was gonna feel more final. And it doesn't, because the way that they've set it up for trilogy after trilogy is that, like, oh, there's a threat. We kind of got it. Oh, we didn't get it. Oh, it's bigger. We got it. Oh, there's a threat. Oh, we got, like, it's the same.
I appreciated that this wasn't 6 over again.
Yeah.
For the most part. But the thing is, at the end...
It kind of was.
At the end, it still feels like the end of 6.
Yeah, exactly.
No, meaning, like... Yeah, like, that's what... Like, it feels like that at the end. Like, bigger and more celebratory of the material itself as opposed to just celebratory of we won.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I was worried that this was just going to be a big apology tour. And it was a little apology tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the end, it's hard not to feel like 7, 8, and 9 has been a bit of a waste of time. Because they were too safe in 7, and people complained about it. So they said, okay, we'll get big and adventurous in 8. And then, like, the same people complained about it. So it's like, so what do you want? So you just want to see Jawas and Luke's lightsaber and Chewie and the Falcon and the thing like Slave One popping out of the thing. You want to see Star Destroyers, or like, because like what did we really do in the end of it all? Like it is the big picture. The same complaints you had about 7 being copied 4. The really, really big picture. If you move far enough away, 7, 8, and 9 are kind of 4, 5, and 6 all over again. It looked great. We got a bunch of characters I thought were really cool. We got some really cool moments. We got some expansion of the lore. But in the end, what did we really accomplish with this series? And if you're going to keep playing it safe and just saying, oh no, people complained about it, let's try and win them back, they're either going to stick around or not. And if they don't want to enjoy it, then they can fuck off.
Yeah.
So stop being safe, because there's so many other people who are clamoring to enjoy this thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to enjoy every little thing. I enjoy this movie despite having complaints about a lot of it. I loved 8, but it's still not a perfect movie. There are flaws to that movie. Legitimate things, but that are gripes, not breaking of the movie.
Yeah.
And I like 7 because it's a quality endeavor that has a lot of cool things and people going on, but it is just a retread of 4 in the end, when it all comes down to it.
At the end of the day, Return of the Jedi feels like it should have been it was a good ending in that.
And that's why I never...
Peace to the galaxy.
what you were saying about you always thought they were going to go back and get 1, 2, 3, and they were always going to... I never thought they were going to do 7, 8, and 9.
I thought they were because of what I had read, and that I thought they had good stories that they could tell.
But the thing is, I always knew that there was too many stories.
That's true. I guess that's true.
I always assumed they were going to do 1, 2, and 3. I didn't know what was going to happen. But they did it, and that was what I said to you. Is in 2005, I thought that was the end.
Yeah.
I didn't think we'd ever get anything ever again.
Oh,
because George Lucas was getting older. They didn't announce anything within... By the time 2010 came around, and we didn't even get a... We're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, it's going to take a couple years to make a Star Wars movie. When you don't hear anything about, like, people trying to get someone to do it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed it was never going to happen. And then when Disney bought it, it's like, oh, this is real again. And then when you see their scope of the plans, it's like, okay. So that's why, yes, this does feel like a period instead of an ellipses.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have that sense of finality because I know there's going to be something.
Sure.
It could be a show. It could be a bunch of shows. It could be a movie about... It could be a standalone movie. It could be a new trilogy that's not 10, 11, 12. Just a new trilogy that can be coming. And it could be in a year or it could be in 5 years. But I know it's coming. Mm. So I'm sad to see it end and see it go. But I know that I will get something. And that as long as you try to do something, I'm likely to like it to some degree. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Much as I complain about and make fun of 1, 2, and 3, and they're not good movies, I still have found things to like about them.
Oh yeah, I enjoy them. It's one of those, like I said, it starts off with 4, 5, and 6 is our core story that we have grown to love, and everything else has been supplemental to that story, right? It leads into that story, and then going beyond it is a little bit of a gray area because it was meant. When Jedi came out, it was meant to be more of a finite, I feel like, thing. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. 7, 8, and 9, like it is a rehashing of it, but it is essentially 7, 8, and 9 are a reboot of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It is it's bringing it back into the zeitgeist, and it's making it like it's rehashing like this is the tone of like this 3-movie arc, and like. It's I agree with you. It doesn't do much for the story. It's like we basically end up in the same place that we thought we ended up in at the end of Jedi, right? Yeah, it's it's not necessary. I enjoyed the entire ride. I loved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. There's plenty more to explore that they could do.
It just feels like a missed opportunity. Because, like, the thing is, as much as I think there's valid criticism of choosing to reboot with 7, I understand why they did it. So I'm willing to give them a part of a pass for that. You know what I mean? Like, I would have liked to do something new, but I understand why you feel like you have to do that. Let's do something new from there. And they started to in 8, and this, not as egregiously as I feared they would, pulls the reins back on all of that. And I just wonder what's the point if we're just going to keep doing the same thing. Even if you rearrange the picture, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't challenge yourself to challenge your viewers in whatever way, and this isn't even getting to the, I want to punch the next person who says, oh, Rian Johnson subverting my... I just want to punch people using it because I can hear the tone in my head as I'm hearing the reading the sentence. If you don't challenge your viewers, then you might as well just hook up an IV bag to us. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to get bored. And if you lose me, you've lost Star Wars.
Well, so actually, I'm thinking more about it. Here's the one thing that it did something. In the end, it did do something for the storyline. And that is that the 4, 5, and 6 did not know what they would become, right? At the time. What 7, 8, and 9 did, by the end, specifically mostly with 9, is that all of these things that have been established as things in the universe, like these, like, I don't know, like force healing, things like that, like stuff like that, it brought it into the fold of what was the original to make it feel, I think, to make that stuff feel a little bit more cohesive throughout the entire, I don't know, Star Wars saga, I guess. Not the Skywalker stuff, but the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It made it feel more like everything else. Like, it made it all kind of come together, which I think is actually a pretty cool thing to do, considering, like I said, they didn't know what this thing was going to become when they started it. And now, like, the cultural phenomenon that it is. Like, I think it's helpful in that way, but I agree, story-wise, story progression, things like that, it didn't really do much. Again, I have no problem with that. I enjoyed it, but it's not. I was talking to a buddy yesterday, and I think he had read something. I think it was on the Ringer, but he was like, somebody had watched all of the movies, and they're all the 4th best. And I was like, that's a really funny way to put it, but I kind of get what you're saying, and to a degree, like, I agree with what you're saying. I just love Star Wars so much. I know that I'm not. I have a bias, you know, and
the thing is,
I'm fine with that.
Anyone who is a Star Wars fan has a bias.
Yeah.
So it's just about managing them.
Okay. Here's a funny thing. I actually want to talk a little bit about this. We won't get too deep on this. I'm very curious how things were, how people's states of minds, how they consumed media in the 70s and 80s, like early, you know, when this stuff started. And now, like right now, it would be hard for you to convince me that people don't approach things wanting it to be bad today.
Some things, sure.
At like most media, I feel like people are like ready to hate things.
Well, the thing is, and maybe it's just the prequels damaged an entire generation or two of fans so badly that specifically people seemed to want to go into Star Wars expecting them to be bad. I don't
think this is Star Wars related.
I do, because I don't recall anyone going into Infinity War and Endgame wanting it to be bad.
There was chatter around it. It might not have been as vocal as the Star Wars community, but like just people. We're living in a very negative time.
Sure, the only people that I recall wanting it to be bad were people who want it to go away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall any Avengers fans, MCU fans, wanting it to be bad. There's been a pretty substantial contingent of Star Wars fans. Not the majority. There's been a vocal contingent of fans who have been actively rooting against, even back to 7, rooting against it as they come out.
Yeah.
There's something different about this fan base.
Yeah. What is that?
I don't know. Like I said, maybe the prequels just damaged them.
Is it a jaded fan base because at the time it was not cool to be a nerd and now it is?
Some of it, although you see some of that going on with the MCU stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's just fighting the people who are trying to join the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But they're still not rooting against the movie. Like I said, the only people
who
have been rooting against it has been people who are on the outside.
Yeah, it's almost like it's decidedly bad before it even came out. It's just like, what are you doing? It's just this type of stuff bothers me though, only because like I don't care where you're at. Like maybe you don't like it. That's fine. Honestly, you don't have to. I'm not telling you have to like it, but like you don't have to immediately be negative about these things. Like the purpose of a movie at the end of the day is entertainment. This is the entertainment medium, and just fucking go in. Like go see it or don't go see it. Go in with an open mind. Go in there to have fun, not to rip it apart. Go in there to experience it and try to have a good time. Like, go in there with that being your goal. And I think you're going to be all right. Like,
well, the thing I find curious about watching how people engage with this versus other eras of Star Wars is, by any definition that you could possibly want, 7, 8, 9 are better movies than 1, 2, and 3.
100%.
And yet, the conversation around them these last 5 years, you would think it's the exact opposite way.
Yeah.
I can't reconcile that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that is the case.
And how we got there.
Because I'm talking to people who are like, hate The Last Jedi. It's like, fine. Put all the cards on the table. That movie is 100% better than any of 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like everything or nothing in the movie. Just from a fundamental quality of the filmmaking, it's a better movie.
Yeah.
The quality of the acting, better movie. And in regards to story, no matter how much you hate it, it is more cohesively delivered to you, the viewer, than any of the 3, with the exception of maybe 3. Like, you could make the argument, is what I'm saying. Yeah. I would personally choose 8 over it, but you could make the argument. 1 and 2 are largely a mess in that sense. So, how can you get to the standpoint where, and part of it is just the sheer connectivity of the internet now as opposed to 20 years ago, right? But I don't understand what's going on there, just the tone of the conversation. How you can go in like this. It's like, do you like Star Wars or not? Because what it comes down to a lot of times with these things I've noticed is I don't. What bothers me about the way people have talked about these movies is like the feeling of betrayal. It's like, did you forget the betrayals of 1, 2, and 3? What do you mean?
Yeah.
You don't own this, no matter how big of a fan you are, and I'm as big a fan as anyone. You don't own it, so you don't get to tell whoever is making the movie what they can and can't do. You can choose to like it or not like it.
Right.
And if you choose to not like it, that's fine, and it doesn't make you lesser of a fan.
Yeah.
But you don't get to choose or get to tell them what is right and wrong and what can and can't be done. They hold the
power. No,
property.
if you want to do that, you actually have to do the work. You have to get yourself into the industry, and you have to work your way up to that. And these people have done that. These people that are doing this, like, they've earned it.
Yeah, and that's the other funny thing. Like, they didn't hire some scrub off the street. J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson are both self-proclaimed super fans of the material. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, super fans of the material. Yeah. So, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You not liking a choice does not mean that the choice was wrong.
Yeah.
And if you can't understand why the choice makes sense, that's on you, because we've talked about it. Most of the choices, whether we've liked them or not, for 7 and 8 at least, it's going to take us more time.
Yeah, we have to digest 9.
To judge on some of these things. But for 7 and 8, most of the choices made logically fit within the framework of Star Wars, whether we liked them or not.
Yeah. Here's the one thing that really bothered me. You know how I feel about the everything around 8. One of the earliest instances of me realizing that this is a conversation that's not going to be easy to navigate is when I was told that it's a Star Wars movie, of course I was going to like it. And I was just like, well, just completely dismissing my credibility of somebody that loves movies as a whole. You're actually attacking me for wanting to like things. So that was one thing that really bothered me, and I got that from multiple
I can't get to... I mean, listen, I've gone into things, like, cynically, like, with Joker or whatever, and it's like... What it came down to when I was sitting down is like, I don't want to dislike this movie. Because that means I'm going to have wasted 2 hours of my time at $10. Like, I don't want to dislike it.
To some degree, it might become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, it's just not... Yeah. But anyway, my point is, what I was getting at, it was... that really rubbed me the wrong way when I was met with that. Really bothered me. And...
Well, the other thing I say is, for how many Star Wars fans are bitching about it, if you're a Star Wars fan, does it automatically mean you're going to like it? Obviously not. So,
going into 9, I was like... I was worried that I was going to have to, like... that it was just going to happen again. And that I was going to love it and have to defend it. And I feel like I was almost trying to collect
data. It's still early. By tomorrow, everyone will have seen it.
Yeah. Well, but what I'm saying was, like,
the thing is,
I took away from the experience of watching the movie a little bit because I was almost on the defensive. Just because I was just like... Now, at this point, it's like, I almost do want to like it even if it's not great.
I was exhausted yesterday just thinking about what the next week of capital D discourse, to steal the parlance from Deadspin and The Ringer, is going to be like. Because most of the people who've seen it are critics or like work in the industry or like actors and actors. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of fans who saw it before we did. If they did, it was by like 2 hours, not 2 days.
Right.
I remember going through this when we saw 8. I remember reading reviews, spoiler free. Oh wow, everyone loves this movie. Okay, a couple of people liked it, didn't love it. Cool. I haven't seen anyone hate it. Seems like there's some reasons to, like, just general movie making, like critique it, not pan it. You know, it's like, okay, we saw the movie. It's like, wow, I loved it. Went to bed. We've recorded our instant reaction. We went to bed. I woke up. We were getting ready to go see it the next morning again. And I'm online, and I'm like watching people bitching, and I'm like,
what?
Did they watch the same movie we did?
Yeah.
What the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Because I didn't engage with The Force Awakens in that same way. The process was just different.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I came out of that rosier than I did what I felt within a few months later. Or even, having seen it a second time, a few weeks later, whatever. But I don't remember the conversation going that way. Mm-hmm. And part of it was, I think, just everyone was willing to give it a bit of a pass because it was the joy of getting Star Wars back.
Yeah.
It was the first one back. So, I don't know. I think we're going to be in for a lot of bitching over the next weeks and months, for sure. Maybe the tenor of the conversation will be different. And I think there are more justifiable criticisms of this movie than there were of 8, is what I'll come down to.
I'll agree with you on that. Yeah, that's the case. I really enjoyed it, though.
I liked it. I know I'll see it again on Monday, probably. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to see it before that, just because I'm not going to have time tomorrow. I'm definitely not going to have time Saturday. I just don't think I will Sunday.
Yeah. We'll have to check back in. I'll see it a few more times, I'm sure. Man, I love Star Wars so much, and even though I could at the same time as agreeing with you that 7, 8, 9 don't really do much for the story, I'm so glad I have them. Like, I don't know, it's like
I still as much as I've had issues with 7, like I said, it's a really well made movie with a lot of good things to do. I'll still watch it, but I still watch 1, 2, and 3.
Hmm? Yeah.
The worst of them, the objectively bad, there's still more than enough good to still get me to watch it. I laugh at those movies a lot, not with them, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, so I guess it's a more benevolent version of hate watching. But, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. I just want the stuff to be good. I want there to be some sort of healing of the fan base where we can enjoy it and we don't have to fight over it anymore. I prefer conversations about who's the best Jedi, like
shit like fun
that.
stuff.
We've done stuff like that, or like how cool was that fight scene, or which would I prefer of seeing, but like in like a fun way. You know what I mean?
Not going to war after we watch a movie.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get that inclination because we tend to review things more positively in general than consensus probably.
Again, we're in this for the entertainment.
Want to enjoy it, and that comes with us crushing some things too. It's rare, but it does happen.
Well, yeah, I almost like. I mean, this is silly to say. When we dislike something, I feel like it carries a little bit more weight than when somebody else tells me they dislike something. Just because I just don't like. Yeah, you dislike everything. How am I supposed to?
Well, even if we say like the thing was just okay, we still generally review it more positively because like we actively seek the things to enjoy in some of these things.
Which is the whole premise of the Spinchoon. We're approaching 3:30 in the morning. Okay. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, not right now.
Well, I'm sure we'll check back in next week after we've seen it. Probably at least.
Are we going to record next week?
Who knows? Oh no, it's Christmas. We're probably I don't know. We'll be back.
we may be off a week or two, guys.
Yeah, exactly. With that being said, thank you for joining us. That's been episode 112 of Flix and the Six. I had to ask Al. I've asked Al 3 times now.
Yes.
If you have, as always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixandthesix@spinchoon.com. Until next time, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Bielsi.
Thanks for coming out.
Godspeed, Rebels.
Mando Watch. 2 episodes of Mando Watch. Mm-hmm. Right? So we have the
6 and 7.
Is the next one the last one?
Yes.
Okay.
Next Friday it should be coming out.
Next Friday. You're gonna have to remind me what happened in the. What was this? What was the one before this previous one about?
Sorry, which one?
The one before. Oh, sorry. The one before this one that we just watched. I don't know. 6?
We just saw 7, so 6. The Prison Break one.
That was good.
It was really good.
That was really good.
By far the best of the 3 standalone episodes.
That was a really fun episode.
Yeah.
Bill Burr, awesome. Liked seeing him in there.
I don't like that it makes canonical Space Boston, but okay.
Fair enough. Those
he was fun.
That wacky band of characters, though, that was like really cool. I love
for the most part, what's her name fit out more than she fit in. But other than that, not that there wasn't anything interesting with her. Xion, was that her character's name, I think?
You know me with character names.
That's a good point. Well, the thing is, I still am not entirely sure which is the name and which is the name of the species for the Clancy Brown character. I just don't recall which one's which. But other than that, yeah, she was Xion, her brother was Quinn, Bill Burr was Mayfeld, and then Zero was the droid. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name of the guy who gave him the job, actually.
Yeah, that actor, he was...
I said he was in Nolan stuff. He was
Eckhart, right? Was he Eckhart in Batman Begins?
I wouldn't remember the name of the character, but yes.
Yeah. That was fun. That whole sequence, though, like the prison heist, that was such a cool, what a great concept for an episode. Like, that was probably so much fun to storyboard out and then like turn into this thing in the Star Wars universe.
And it was a fun cast of characters who all gave you something a little different. Mm-hmm. They played off each other mostly well. Now, there was some rough spots. Like I said, specifically, some of the Xion stuff was a little bit... She was just a bit too much. Yeah. She was basically playing Star Wars Harley Quinn, which was a little...
She was playing Jim Carrey's Black Swan from Saturday Night Live. I don't know if you've seen that.
You know what? I think I did. I don't really remember it. I just remember that it was a thing.
Yeah.
Just you saying the words Jim Carrey, Black Swan, I remember that being a thing. I don't remember the details.
One of the things that they've been doing in The Mandalorian is they'll do like here's the scene, and like immediate gut reaction is not what actually happened. Like, your immediate gut reaction to the scene is not what happened. So, like, him taking down each of the people and then in a final scene seeing them in a prison cell, I think that's a really cool way of executing that. Like, it looked very clear that one of them got their head crushed in it.
Well, I was going to say, the Clancy Brown character was the one that, like, I just assumed he was killing them all because I didn't think there was another way to interpret what happened to him.
Right.
Whereas if they'd shown the other two first, it's obvious that you don't actually know that he's killing. It's just, it seemed safe to assume that they were killed after it seemed like he was pretty obviously killed.
Right. But I think that was kind of cool. I just like that they're doing things like that. Like they did, it was a similar thing in the first episode, right? With the IG-11, is it?
Yes.
When he shoots him, but like you hear the blaster. Well, no, but it's there's a pause, there's a beat before you know what happened.
Well, they did it again in 4 when the sniper looks like he's takes the shot.
So good.
And then you find out Kara shot him.
I like that execution. It's very Western.
Kara shot first.
Nice. That's very. It's like it's very much like a Western when they do that.
The show is.
And it's awesome. I'm just like, here's the thing. Overall, not much has happened. Right?
Actually, this just reminded me. I have to read this to you before. I remember I promised you when we were sound testing that I had something to read for you. And it was interviewing with Bill Burr, talking about his time shooting The Prisoner, which was episode 6. And so he said, despite his aversion to Star Wars after running into showrunner Jon Favreau at a birthday party, he told the Last Laugh podcast, Favreau was like, hey, I'm doing this Star Wars thing, would you want to do something? And I was like, I kind of always made fun of it. And Burr seemed concerned that the optics of him joining a Star Wars project would look iffy, but Favreau saw it a different way. I think that it'd be funny. I think your fans would get a kick out of the fact if you went into that thing. You recall Favreau saying, then I went in there and they were like shooting it like a spaghetti western, and I was immediately so psyched to be a part of it.
Awesome.
I'm going to follow that up, though, with something else, because apparently people online, since that episode aired, have been blaming him for dropping Baby Yoda. And saying, how dare you?
Wait, why don't I remember it? What is the scene?
Well, listen to the quote. Alright, so here's the deal. I didn't drop Baby Yoda. The fucking robot dude came out of hyperspace and he didn't tell anybody, alright?
Oh, right.
Until you're in hyperspace holding a fucking baby and some robot, like, that's not unsettling enough. He's driving the fucking thing and slams on the brakes. Let's see how you do. Walk a mile in my fucking space slippers before you fucking come at me. So he was joking around. But he said people have been breaking his balls on Twitter nonstop.
That's amazing. Oh my god. I love it. Again, another completely throwaway episode, though.
Yes, which concerned me because I was like, oh shit, is this our reality?
Are these just episodes? Like one-offs? And which may be okay. Like, they're fun to watch.
It's just not the type of show I typically gravitate towards.
Sure.
I'm not a big fan of the Killer of the Week or the Crime of the Week CSI model. Which
totally
I know is like, if you're going to talk about old inspiration for these things, that is what TV used to be. Mm-hmm. But it's not what I'm used to it being. And it's not something that I'm super interested in. I like a story for whatever it's going to be. Because you get 3 episodes at the beginning of the season that tell kind of like a first chapter. Mm-hmm. And then you get 3 episodes. And I guess if it was a 9-episode run, I would have been like, okay, 3, cool. So it felt like the first 2 of the standalones were going to be kind of it. Mm-hmm. And then I guess I just assumed that we were going to get 3 episodes giving on the back end, giving a story. And then like another one came and I was like, fuck. Sure, this is the best of these 3, but it's like, give me more.
Yeah.
Give me detail. And now it seems like with 7...
Now we got the mystery is starting to unfold a little bit more.
With the way things end in 7, they're clearly going to have to continue to pick it right back up.
I liked that. Yeah, which was cool, because it's basically a 2-part finale.
Yes, which is cool. So I think ultimately, I would prefer they stuck with 2 standalones in the middle.
What if they just started off with The Chicken Brothers?
The thing is, 5, looking at the 7 episodes, 5 is pretty clearly the weak link in my mind.
Which one was that?
When we're on Tatooine.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
Even just among the 3 standalones, I thought 4 and 6 were much better. Mm-hmm. Much more interesting, engaging, gave us more actual story about.
I agree.
Even if it's just the story of these characters, gave us a lot more to work with that I found more compelling.
But that last episode,
7,
got the story rolling again. Brought me the most heartache that I've seen since you were the chosen one. I was not ready for that. I thought maybe he was going to activate his little droid helper to take those guys out. Didn't happen.
It would have been the sensible thing to do. He was pretty close to the ship.
Yeah. Seeing Baby Yoda on the floor, I was like, did this son of a bitch bail? And then I was like, oh wait, no, this is going to be so much worse. And then they panned over to it. I was like,
I was a little confused because he was like, the child was motionless. And like, he looks more like a green sack of potatoes than he does like a baby that's just been dropped.
Right.
I'm a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
Still confused, actually. Like, did he have a baby concussion or
maybe
forced concussion?
Yeah.
Why didn't he use the Force to protect him and Kuel?
That's a good question.
He used it on Kara quick enough.
That was amazing. Okay, so that so far has been the best scene in this show.
Fucked up as that is.
His eyes, he got so dark side, it was ridiculous. When he chokes her, I was like, oh my god. I also, you know what I loved about that scene? Is that neither of the other two characters in the room know what's happening until a beat later. And it's just like, but you as the viewer have the angle where you see it happen.
Guys, she's choking.
And then he's looking at her, Mando's looking at her, he's like, oh my god, like what's that? And then looks over at the child and is like, no.
I love how he's trying to reason with him while he's choking. Like, no, it's okay. Like
friends. that was really, really silly. And yeah, then we get this like really intense scene in that like bar, and they fire these guys. I don't know what his character's name is.
Moff Gideon.
Yeah, like he fires on his own guy, presumably, and the stormtroopers that are in there. Very strange. Maybe it's a show of power type thing. Like these people are disposable, and so are you.
We've always known that the Imperials view everyone, including each other, as expendable.
Yeah.
To their mission. This seemed to be a new level of it because it wasn't like you and I were talking about earlier today. Not on the show, obviously. It seemed less collateral damage and more fuck them, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like they got into a standoff and then the bullets fly, or the lasers fly in this case, and they just happened to kill it. This was a preemptive strike.
Yep.
And I guess it's just a possibility of, okay, there is no one who is actually in charge, so they will war with each other if it gets one of them what they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
I actually think it could set up for some interesting storytelling if we see rival factions.
Ooh, that could be cool.
Pop up in season 2.
Yeah. Well, when is that going to be? Another year?
I mean, I hope next year. They're working on it already.
That's cool.
If not actively shooting stuff, they're in the writer's room, so.
I don't know. Overall, the episode was super engaging. The stuff that was going on. Also, like the thing that
Even
was
though
like clearly a double cross.
Episode is them like jumping like from like spot to spot, including all the spots we've been already.
Yeah. I do like the whole thing with like Carl Weathers and those two characters. Like they were gonna clearly turn on them, and like you expected that from the beginning.
And him too, which is why he brought his own little crew.
Yep. Which is, and it's just like the way that that unfolds is like the child saved him, so he's starting to understand a little bit more about like why Mando did what he did, or like for his own reasons, not the same as Mando's, but like I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. Getting Yoda doing the force healing. Yeah, not Yoda, but the child doing the force healing. That was awesome. That scene was actually pretty crazy. That was actually really creepy. It was like very. You remember the movie Pitch Black?
The Vin Diesel one?
Yeah, it reminded me of that. Like the creatures like coming out of nowhere, and just like taking you and like running away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was a fun episode.
That poor blurg.
It got.
It got in a big way.
And that other one, like, it may have also gotten got. Like, it got adjacent.
Got adjacent. Obviously, Rip Kuel, I've spoken.
Oh, man. That was hard. That really made me sad.
I mean, just think about that. His story of how long he worked in slavery to buy his passion free. Like, he just wanted to farm water.
Tired.
He just wanted to farm water and tame blurgs. And just be left alone. Wasn't hurting anyone. In fact, good guy. Helped anyone who needed his help.
Yeah.
Free of charge. Repeatedly. And he got.
Such a bummer. It's such a bummer. It was really sad, that scene. Seeing his cold dead body on the sand.
I shouldn't feel this bad for a little pigman version of Nick Nolte.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do
as well.
But, yeah, I don't know.
I'm excited to see where it goes. I think that the finale, I feel like, is going to be big. I don't know. I feel like something is going to happen. Because not much has happened in between, I feel like they've been driving...
I do wonder if they end on, like, a legit cliffhanger.
I kind of hope they do some, well, a cliffhanger, but as long as they also give you something big in between that. Like,
well, sure, but what I'm saying is, I would, as much as I'm going to hate what it would do, I'd be okay with it ending with them still not having gotten the child back.
Oh, that's. I feel like that might be likely. Yeah, but maybe learning about more about it.
Sure. I mean, I would expect the finale to be a slightly longer episode. This one was also a little longer too.
Yeah, same.
Also, weird aside, but I really liked that pit fighting scene with Kara.
That was cool.
I thought the mechanism that forced them to stay a certain, so they couldn't get too far apart from each other, which forces the action, was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Although, is it cheating that he was pulling her towards him with
it ended up working out for her.
Thing?
So
sure, I was just confused how he could grab it. Also,
yeah.
Also, was that a Night
What
Brother?
are the rules?
Was that a Night Brother of Dathomir?
I thought so.
He looked an awful lot like him. He's got the horns
Yeah.
popping out of his head. I think it was, although he seemed less murdery.
Yeah.
At least less cultist murdery. Big fan of Clancy Brown. This is now the third iteration of him being in Star Wars now. Well, he definitely. I think he voiced. He voiced Pre Vizsla in the Clone Wars, and then he was the deposed governor in Rebels. I don't know if you've gotten that part in the show yet. He voices the deposed governor of Lothal.
Okay.
Which you've heard references to if you've not met him yet. He ends up being on the show.
Okay.
Which is weird that he's voiced multiple characters now. But that dude, I love him. He's great in all of his roles. He's so good on Billions because you just hate him so much, which is usually the indication of a pretty good character and actor. Because he's got some great lines in it too. He's just such a bastard. But yeah, no, I've been really digging it, especially again these last two episodes have really picked up, so I'm excited for next week to wrap up. I don't know, I'm enjoying the show.
Me too. And with that, we will be back. I don't know if it's next week. No, it'll probably be 2 or 2.5 weeks. But we will be back, and in that final Mando Watch, we'll be discussing the final episode of the season. Tune in next time. May the Force be with you.